everybody, and good evening. Tonight we have special guest Mark Sargent with us. Today is the 29th of August 2017, Tuesday 29th. Thank you to everybody in the chat room who's turned up and already there, and on the panel.
Hello.
Oh, am I supposed to say something?
Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Yeah, I said hello, Mark.
Hello from America. I am very far away.
Yes, I'm very sorry to hear about the hurricane.
Yes.
Patricia was coming on with us tonight, but she's stuck because she went to see her sister and then she's stuck and she can't get home. Oh, she must be so worried.
Yeah, she happened to leave. For those of you who aren't in the United States, Hurricane Harvey came out of the Gulf of Mexico and hit Corpus Christi, Texas, which is just south of Houston. And then it was downgraded from a hurricane to a tropical storm and then rolled into Houston and dumped a ton of rain. And I can't give you the metric equivalent, but I think in the first couple of days it dumped like 25 inches, which is a huge amount of rain. And of course, no major city can survive that. So all the banks flooded, and now there's huge swaths of the city which are underwater. But just before that happened, Patricia had to go to a wedding, her niece's wedding up in Michigan, which is far, far away. And she was up there when it hit. And now her flight back has been canceled. Rumor has it she might be able to catch a flight tomorrow. I don't know, maybe. And so her cat,
isn't she?
Yeah, she's got 3 cats in her house. Now, all that being said, I haven't heard of any flooding in her area yet. And she has remote control. She has camera access, video access to her house through her security system, which is also great. And she's got neighbors that can check up on them. And I don't think the cat sitter now can get to it. But regardless, the city itself, the city of Houston, is just in shambles, which is extremely bad timing. It was weird. It hit literally within hours after I booked a flight down there, because I was going to go to Houston, and I'm still planning on going to Houston on the 10th of September, because the documentary team, which we'll segue into in a little bit, that is working with me, liked the footage that Patricia and I shot at the Seattle Flight Museum, that's run by Boeing, and they liked the footage that we shot down there. And then what was interesting was that Houston, of course, is the headquarters for NASA. So Patricia and I were going to go to the bigger, more expensive version of that, which is actually in Houston. Hopefully it's going to be open, and we were going to shoot that. I don't know if we're going to do that now if I go down. I'm hoping we do, to be honest. I mean, I'm not going to knock the flood, and we can talk about this a little bit, but it's like, look, despite what you may think, flat Earth is still bigger than a domestic isolated flood. As bad as it is, the stuff that I'm into is still bigger in my opinion. So we'll see what happens when I go down there. But I'm planning the what?
Mark, do you think it's not all flooded then? It just looked really bad today. They're just showing feet and feet of water. So
yeah, it's not the whole city. I mean, yeah, the whole city got rained, but it was the southern part of the city which really got smacked. Anyone that lived next to levees and big water tributaries got hit pretty hard, and there was a lot of people relocated. But out of the 4.5 million people that supposedly live in Houston, I mean, a lot were affected, of course. And if Patricia was living there, she wouldn't be able to drive, and I'm sure there were freeways that were cut off. There were, the press. I'm not trying to downplay what happened. I'm not. But the press loves to maximize damage and stuff like that. So they focused on the roadways that were covered. It's not like Houston, and now they're questioning the city leaders and saying, oh, why didn't they evacuate the city? It's like, because it's rain. That's why. If it was a hurricane, if the hurricane actually came inland and they knew it was going to hit, that's one thing. And I can speak about this very well because I was in Boulder, Colorado, just a few years ago for their 500-year flood, which rolled in and dumped a ton of rain. not as much as the thing off the Gulf of Mexico. We got to remember we were in the middle of the United States. We're in a high desert, and we still received like 17 inches of rain in a week, which was a lot of rain. And the difference is there is that because it's a desert mostly, everybody has basements, and anybody that had a basement was flooded out. Including every property owner that I knew in the city. So the point is that it still rained. Boulder didn't get evacuated. So yeah, people do panic, but again, remember, again, this is not me being cold in any way. I'm a prepper by nature. I'm a survivalist. So I mean, I wrote a manual on it. I lecture people whatever I can on it. I'll send people a free survivalist manual whenever they want. Just email me. It's already on my machine. I give them to them for free. So if you don't sort of prepare for certain things like that, there's only so much sympathy I can throw you. That's me being kind of a jerk, but I don't care. Anyway,
Well,
that's my little rant.
So everybody who wants a survival guide, Sargent.
But that being said, let's do that. Let's do the happy side of it, because I know Patricia's probably watching, which is you should probably go to her channel because she has a video on there right now.
Series is going to play it. Series is going to play her video.
Okay. Do you want me to frame it for you?
What do you mean?
Oh, you just kind of do the lead in for it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go for it. I'll just put you on.
Because I was the one that made the video. It's called Flat Earth Hurricane Harvey fundraiser for victims, sponsored by Patricia Steer. Patricia, because she lives there, she wanted to do a fundraising thing through a national charity, and this is what she came up with.
Okay, Series is going to play it now.
In the eye of a hurricane, there is quiet for just a moment. A yellow sky. When I was 17, a hurricane destroyed my town. I didn't drown. I couldn't seem to die. I wrote my way out, wrote everything down far as I could see. I wrote my way out. I looked up and the town had its eyes on me. We passed a plane around, total strangers, moved to kindness by my story. Raised enough for me to book passage on a ship that was New York bound. I wrote my way out of hell, I wrote my way to revolution. I was louder than the crack in the bell. I wrote Eliza love letters until she fell. I wrote about the Constitution and defended it well. And in the face of ignorance and resistance, I wrote financial systems into existence. And when my prayers to God were met with indifference, I picked up a pen, I wrote my own deliverance. In the eye of a hurricane, there is quiet for just a moment. A yellow sky. I was 12 when my mother died. She was holding me. We were sick and she was holding me. I couldn't seem to die. Wait for me, wait for me, wait for me. Right my way down. Wait for me, right down. I can see. Way out. Overwhelm them with honesty. This is the eye of the hurricane. This is the only way I can protect my legacy.
There you go.
Oh, it looks awful.
It is awful. It is awful. And then I'd like to clarify something real quick, because the manual, the survival manual, prepper manual that I send out to people for free to prepare you for events just like this was written. I wrote that because of Hurricane Katrina. If you remember that that big hurricane that hit New Orleans some years ago. And the reason why I wrote it was that, and again, not charging for it, just giving it to people for free. In fact, I published copies of it, made hardbound copies, and FedEx them to my family members once I was done. And the reason I did that was, and which was weird because Patricia was actually in New Orleans when Katrina happened. So she's actually seen, although she missed Houston officially, she still lived there. So she lived in 2 towns that were smacked. But the entire city had to evacuate. The entire city of New Orleans had to evacuate. And out of the people that came, and only half the city came back, even moved back. New Orleans is still just crushed. I mean, the economy there, it's amazing. My mother did missionary work down in New Orleans after the fact, and there are huge neighborhoods which will never ever grow back. There's no, people aren't just going to come back to that place. But out of the people that came back, 3 out of 4 of them still didn't prepare anything. That's the part that killed me. It's like, look, you literally had to run out of the city, drive as fast as you can. The city was under salt water. You know, the levees broke and the whole thing just got inundated. And you all that inconvenience, all the money out of pocket you had to spend. And when you came back, you still wouldn't put a thing of bottled water and a canned food and some batteries and a flashlight in a box somewhere and put it in your garage. Even then, you wouldn't do it. So I'm sorry. It just drives me insane. I'll end this part with this. It's like, look, you get insurance. Here's the logic behind it. You get insurance for just about everything you can think of. We've got home insurance, auto insurance, fire insurance, health insurance. The insurance industry is massive, right? You pay a lot of money for that insurance, and yet you won't throw down a couple $100, get some water, batteries, food, just put it in the corner. You don't even have to look at it. So what if it makes you up, a little bit depressed when you're buying it from the store? You just put it in the corner. You don't even have to worry. But it's there, and it's there if you need it. That's all I'm saying. So that's my little rant. I'm sorry. I'm probably the wrong guy to talk to when it comes to any natural disasters. I've over-prepped and over-prepped and over-prepped for years. A meteor could strike half a mile from here, and I'd probably make it. Anyway, that might be overstating things. Anyway, what do you want to move on to next?
Well, let's just hope as well that works out okay for everybody in
Houston.
That terrible thing, because I don't watch the news very much, so I was a bit shocked to suddenly see all that when Patricia told me. I felt a bit of an idiot not to know it. Anyway, yeah, I just hope everybody's all right, and we'd like to talk to you about the eclipse.
The eclipse was...
Yeah, you went with a camera crew.
Yeah, yeah. The documentary team that's been kind of tracking the whole flat Earth community since the spring, I think late spring. They contacted me, and they were coming up from Los Angeles, and they said, "Hey, we're thinking of going to the blackout zone." And the ground zero for the blackout zone was going to be on the west coast of the United States in Salem, Oregon. And they said, "Hey, we'd like to fly up to Seattle and like you to come with us to Salem, Oregon." I said, "Fantastic! That's a great idea. I'd love to be there." And so they came up, shot up here in Seattle for a day, and then we drove down because it's only about a 3-hour drive. You don't have to take a plane. Plus, there were no flights to be had down there. The closest airport would have been Eugene, Oregon, and those flights have been sold out for weeks. Hotels were all sold out. You couldn't get anywhere near the place. And even the mainstream media said that getting into Salem was going to be a real problem. The highways are going to get clogged, and a million people are going to descend on the town, and you're never ever going to get in. And we drove down and stayed in a little town to the northwest of Salem called Newberg, Oregon, where it's like a little university town there. And then we went down. It was the weirdest thing. We go down in beautiful weather. Go down the eclipse was a week ago on a Monday. And we go down on a Sunday.
That seems like ages ago already.
I know, doesn't it? I know. I'm looking this morning. I was going, that was only a week
ago.
It played havoc with me, that's for sure. And so we go down there on a Sunday, and we scope out the town, and it was like a ghost town down there on Sunday. And we're walking, I mean, we're literally just walking around the streets, you know, there's no traffic things to deal with. I mean, most of the parking lots were empty. I mean, yeah, there were a few caution tapes around certain private parking lots they didn't want to get used. But we couldn't understand it. You could have fired a cannon through those streets and never hit anybody. And we're going, okay, why is there nobody here? You know, CNN actually ran a story saying that Salem was going to be unapproachable. You could not get into Salem. So we went out to the billboard, and I don't think I sent you the pictures. Maybe I'll, you know what, I could, well, I don't think I'll email them to you right this second. All right, I suppose I could. You still have access to your email right now? Karen?
You can also dump them in the Hangout.
If you put them in the Hangout chat, then Series will show them. It's the best if he does it because his computer works faster than mine.
Okay, hopefully this will not screw up any bandwidth. 1 second. Give me 1 second here. I have 2 shots. Well, actually, yes. I'm gonna give you the billboard shot. Do I just dump it into the Hangout? My video is gonna jam up for a second when I do this. So you ready? Can I just drag it in there?
Do you see where I wrote?
No, not yet.
That is the Hangouts, the outside, the outdoor.
Is it the little blue? Yeah, it's the little blue box, right?
Yeah, I'll just say hi, and you can see if we can see mine.
When I did that, you could see that.
You have an indoor chat where you can't share images, and you have an outdoor chat where you can share images.
That's it,
So
Mark.
where you said hi, is that where I can share images?
No, that's the other one. That's the indoor.
Oh.
Wait, is the other one the green arrow? No, that's screen share.
Series, that's
No,
our
it's not
personal
Hangout.
chat on the Hangout. Mark can put it there, can't he?
It's in the Hangout plugin.
Don't
If you
worry
run
about that. Why can't Mark put the link there? Just put the link there, Mark. Series can take it from there.
Put the link, put the picture where?
Oh yeah, links.
Yeah, I tried to drag it into chat and it wouldn't take it.
That doesn't.
No, it didn't. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to email it to him real quick. 1 sec.
If you email it to me, I'll send it to Series.
I got your email there.
Always good to have a bit of technical. We've always got to have a bit. Everybody does.
No. This I hadn't planned on. So here I'll say pictures, Oregon pictures. And we'll just attach. 1 second, guys. There's one. One's going to be of me at the billboard. The other's going to be at the bridge right before the eclipse.
Okay.
And I'm sending it to Series right now.
Yeah, good to send it to him. Thank you. You got his email. Cool.
Yeah. Yep. It's going to take just a sec. Anyway, while it's going over to him, it should be there any second. So we drove over to the billboard. We didn't even think we'd get to the billboard. The billboard, the Flat Earth Oregon actually did a billboard on the intersection of Interstate 5, the major highway that goes along the west coast of the United States, and Portland Avenue. And we went over there and walked through a field and took a picture, and it was a piece of cake. We did all that on Sunday, fully expecting that Monday would be a nightmare. And so we woke up on Monday morning, the morning of the eclipse, and it was perfect weather. Absolutely gorgeous. Not a wisp of anything in the sky. The fires, the forest fires were to our east, and the weather was pushing the stuff east. So everything coming from the west, I mean, you'll see the pictures I sent you, not a cloud in the sky anywhere. It was just gorgeous. And we go to this park, which was, again, we had no idea the park was there. We scoped it out on Sunday night. It's called Riverfront Park in Salem, Oregon. And it was beautiful. This perfect little tiny little amphitheater. The park couldn't have been more than 500-600 yards long. It was just a nice little quaint park right on the river, little river boat down below. And of all things, they had a giant, it had to have been like 30-foot tall ceramic globe there. There was this big art piece. And so we shot everything around that. And then, we just waited for the eclipse, and the park wasn't that full. We were the only media in that park. And I know full well it was the best place to shoot in the entire city, because we went around the entire city. In fact, we had to ask the locals, where was everybody? The only reason we were there was because all the mainstream media were saying that, oh yeah, ground zero is Salem, Oregon. Zero is Salem, Oregon. And the media, turns out, were like 5-10 miles to the east of us, watching a NASA plane. See, NASA was doing experiments that day in various parts of the country. And so they would set up their trucks away from the city out in this place. And so they weren't there interviewing anybody. It was the strangest thing. Literally, we were the only media that were shooting there. So the eclipse started, it took like an hour before the time it started, the crescent started moving across to the time it went to total blackout. And people are getting impatient. It's taking a while. People are putting up their glasses and taking them off, putting them, because you're seeing, the crescent move and move and move and closer. And honestly, and I cannot overstate this in any, I cannot overstate this. Until you saw the last 3% of it, you didn't see anything. Meaning, everybody in the United States saw some part of it, from 70% up to like 90-something%. But the blackout zone, which was only 70 miles wide, was incredible, amazing, breathtaking. Just pick your adjective. It was gorgeous. When it got to 98%, it started getting very, very dark. Yeah, that's me, by the way, in front of the billboard at the intersection of Interstate 5 and Portland Avenue. And that was sponsored by flatearthoregon.com, and they did a fantastic job. It rotates. It's not just that one. There's, I think, 6 or 7 other slides that rotate in place, and it's a giant billboard. And then that's me right next to the giant globe, and behind me is...
Yeah, there you go.
And that's me next to, with a documentary team, and it's a beautiful footbridge in the background. Most of the park is if you're looking, it would be to your right. So, if you take my left hand and move that way, that's where most of it is. But it was just a fantastic setting. And look at the behind us. That was about an hour before the eclipse. In fact, even less than an hour. So the sky was already getting dark, and there was it was just beautiful weather conditions. I know people were talking about chemtrails and how things were obscured along the rest of the path. In Boise and Kansas City and St. Louis and Charlotte, North Carolina, but that particular place was perfect. I could not have asked for a better setting and a better day.
You must have been one of the people not to get clouds, Mark.
I must have been, because it was we didn't have a hint. And in fact, the next day I went back to Seattle. The day after, we stayed there for the rest of the day. That next day there was a haze in that morning. And Sunday there was a little bit of haze. It was like the skies were just perfect just for that one pristine moment. So you get to like 98%, and it's getting really, really dark. And then 99%, you just see a spotlight of the sun, just this glimmer of the sun off to the top of it, and then it goes dark. And when it goes dark, it is the closest thing to magic I've ever seen in my life, where everybody, it didn't matter who you were, because remember, this hasn't happened in the United States on a large scale in 100 years, where everybody just went, they yelled at first, and then everybody got quiet, sitting there with their mouth open, just staring at it. And I know they're saying, oh yeah, don't look at it. No. It was totally worth every second of the drive down and the inconvenience of being there and all that. If I know it's going to happen again in the Midwest of the United States coming in, like 7 years. If you have the chance to ever see it, the total blackout, and pray to God the weather holds, you gotta go. It's just magical to see. And so, yeah, so that's, in fact, I was standing literally, I think when it went totally blacked out, I think I was backwards maybe another 20 yards. But that's basically where we shot the entire eclipse from, and it was gorgeous. That being said, a lot of people, and you probably saw some of the headlines leading up to this, a lot of the people were saying, does the eclipse prove a globe? Does it, are flat earthers going to be demoralized? Are they going to be shot down by this? It's like, no, it's the complete opposite. The flat earth, it was a flat earth eclipse, in my opinion. It was there wasn't anything spherical about it when you were watching this. And as a matter of fact, and I'll go back and forth to this, I'm going to be doing a show tonight with DITRH and Mike Helmick, who did some fantastic videos about the eclipse afterwards, just a couple days ago. And what they were saying was something that I had pretty much been resigned to all along, but until you see it for yourself, you don't know. And that is, the eclipse wasn't caused by two spherical objects intersecting each other from a visual perspective. It was caused by the object itself. Meaning, and Mike did an interesting way of putting it. He said that the eclipse, that nothing caused the eclipse, which I thought was an interesting way of saying it. But that's not really how you should.
Did you catch me as well about that, Chris? Chris has been putting it out. We've got our own stuff about that. So yeah, the sun is doing it to itself.
Absolutely, it is. It's self-eclipsing. Is what is, and that shouldn't surprise anybody. From the model that I've been promoting literally since not day one, but pretty close, is that if the moon can create its own waxing and waning crescents and its own blood moons, then why wouldn't the sun? The only reason we hadn't thought about it is because the sun is always full disk. There's no such thing as a half sun or quarter sun or any of this other stuff. It's always just the sun. The moon goes through all sorts of fun phases, but the sun is so bright. And I understand that now, because a half sun, you still can't look at it. As a matter of fact, even a 90% sun, you still can't look at it. Only a full eclipse can you finally see that. And so when Mike Helmick and DITRH, and I know there's a bunch of other people that have done videos on this, and we'll be doing retrospects on this for a while now, was that when they were analyzing the photos in Photoshop and the video still frames, that they were saying that, look, there's no three-dimensional object in front of this thing. The sun is actually doing it, however you want to word it, and you guys can chime in, was actually doing it to itself. And I'd go, of course it was. Of course it was, because the moon is doing that. Why wouldn't you use the same type of system? And I had a guy email me this morning. He goes, no, it's too easy. It's like, what? You want to make it harder? Like, look, the moon can do it. Why can't the sun do it? It's just brighter. In fact, if you believe, all you have to do is take the moon and change out the bulbs and make the moon brighter. That could be another sun, for all we know. Anyway, it was amazing. And so when I was looking at the entire time, I did not take my eyes off as people are saying, oh, did you look for other planets and stars? I'm going, no, I wanted my 90 seconds, because you only get 90 seconds, just to stare at it. And the entire time I was thinking, this thing is not the combination of one object being 93 million miles away and the other object being 250,000 miles away, and the coincidence that they're just coming in front of each other. Now, it was close enough to touch, in my opinion. That's what it felt like. And for me, it was... Sorry, go ahead.
Last night, she's a lady that was actually sort of homing in on the sun and the moon with her camera and her what you call it, programs, and she set the program to the moon, the sun. The camera didn't realize, so it showed that the sun and the moon are the same distance away, and she didn't even do it in infinity. It's not even in infinity.
Would not surprise me at all. It's something that, and it kind of makes sense that the rest of the country, or a lot of the country, was obscured. Some people were joking with me, and that was, oh, they'll try to obscure the country. And I'm thinking, they didn't have to obscure the country, because that would be logistically way too difficult. All they had to do was obscure as much of the blackout path, which was only 70 miles wide, which segues into one of the reasons, that there's two big things that mainstream science has a problem with. One, I posted a video on, which is why the eclipse was moving from west to east in the first place. And I posted a video because it was curious enough that as people were asking that question, the Washington Post, a newspaper out here in the United States, ran a video story about that question. It's like, why was the shadow moving from west to east, when we all know the moon and the sun go from east to west? So how is that being pulled off? And they had their brainiest guys on there trying to explain it, and they couldn't do it. So they went to Goddard Space Center and talked to a NASA guy. And the NASA guy's demonstration and his graphics were absolutely 100% wrong, even by mainstream science standards. That was the first thing that caught my eye. The second thing, of course, is and this is a big one for people because people, again, always take the path of least resistance, which is how do you take a 2,100-mile object wide and reduce the shadow down to 70 miles? How do you pull that off? Exactly. Because as we all know, when you're playing with shadows, and we've all done it since we were children, you can't make shadows smaller. Not like that, you can't. You can, the shadows are at least your size, or they can be bigger. We've all seen long shadows. We've seen short shadows. We've never seen smaller shadows. It's like you've ever stood in front of a building and the shadow of you would literally be about an inch tall. That's because we're talking about a reduction in shadows, 2,100 miles down to 70 miles. That's what, 97%. That is amazingly huge. I mean, that's almost taking it to a microscopic level. And say, well, that doesn't prove a flat Earth. I'm going, it leans towards us more than it does a globe, because remember, we only said it was 30 to 50 miles in size to begin with. So a 70-mile shadow, yeah, that fits in pretty well. I like it. So those were the things I was. So when you're seeing me there talk to the documentary team, I was going on about some of this stuff and going into rants as best I could. And because the other mainstream media wasn't there was nobody to oppose me. So we just, and I was wearing a specially made, I believe that's the Flat Earth Blackout 2017 shirt. So it was a special Eclipse shirt we had made just for this event, and that was kind of fun too. And in fact, I only wore Flat Earth shirts during the entire trip. It was fun, although I did not wear my I am Mark Sargent shirt.
Have you also seen how the sunspots actually make the sun just like the moon, facing the Earth, all the same, but then turning as a clockwise turning disk actually?
I like it. Yeah, and you're the first person I've even heard say that, which makes sense. Why wouldn't the sunspots be like the craters? The only reason we didn't notice them is because we can't. It's really difficult to look at the sun. This is the first time with modern technology we've really had to take a look. I mean, yeah, I know that there was some stuff done in the 70s, but the first time we've actually gotten to take some pictures. And NASA's released horrible pictures of this thing, including the stuff from the ISS was the worst. But even their stuff on the ground was ridiculous. But it's totally worth the trip, and I'm glad so many people saw it.
So just say we've got Gary with us.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Gary. And I didn't actually introduce Patricia or Series on the Hangout, but Gary's with us. Hello, Gary.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Gary.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Gary.
Hello.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, I thought, even though I'm meant to be on good Wi-Fi here, it seems to be cutting in and out when I'm listening to some of you guys, so it's a bit strange. So, but you can hear me fine, can you?
Yeah. I'll just turn my camera off a bit. Might be me. Might be my broadband thingy bob, so I'll turn my camera off for a bit. Yes, we can. How are you?
Can I just confirm that everyone can hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I can hear you, Gary.
Gary,
good.
we
That's
can
lovely.
hear you. Hey, we can hear you.
Okay, I heard you.
Cool. Mark was just talking about his journey with the eclipse. Could I just add one thing? We've done a lot of eclipse research ourselves. We've done it live on Sun and Moon, and Chris Monk has done some amazing stuff on the eclipse. If you want to see that at some point, Mark. Obviously, Mick and Chris have done bits together, but you know they often ask each other things. But yeah, we've done we've also done our bit on the eclipse that you might want to see.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out.
It's on our channel. There was no moon. There.
Yeah, and what you were saying there, I was interesting because we got up really, really early for this thing. I mean, we were up and out of the house long before sunrise. And as a matter of fact, it's interesting because I remember that night before, and I was up pretty late. I didn't see the moon that night. And as the sun came up, it's like, okay, you know, I know it was a new moon, but We weren't supposed to see any part of it before it intersected at all. I mean, I know I get the whole eclipse apart, but yeah, it was interesting that
You know that the eclipse went to Portugal as well as the UK. They didn't really talk about that, did they?
no, they didn't, which is also interesting because nobody should have seen it in Portugal or the UK. It should have died over the in the Atlantic Ocean, just past the Bermuda Triangle.
Mm. Well, our lovely Stan Smith, I think a few other people did as well, but he caught it. So, and he was in the Isle of Wight.
Nice.
So, yeah, didn't mention that, did they?
Nope.
It's the most weirdest looking thing when they zoom in and take those pictures of the eclipse. It just looks so weird. It looks nothing like planets, and everything looks like CGI on their pictures.
The camera guys that I were with, they were shooting them with multiple cameras. You know, they had not just the ones they were holding, but other ones. And they were telling me that it was doing something strange to the cameras. It was like, it's, for whatever reason, they could see everything fine with their eyes, but when they were trying to use the cameras, they were having a difficult time, you know, bringing things into focus, and because it just didn't look right. And
Karen B's got some amazing pictures of it. I mean, if you didn't know better and you didn't know she was a real person and she just recorded this with her P900, you'd reckon that NASA had it. The colours in it are just amazing for that bit of totality, and the other colours flying around it, they were amazing. Oh, here's Chris.
Howdy all. I grab a little time to jump in and hang out.
oh, hang on, I got to mute my mic.
Yay, hello. Oh, yeah, I've been left. You then, Chris.
Oh, I'm doing well. Carry on. I'll catch up as you move along here. And good to see you all. Hope everybody's doing well.
Chris.
You like the new look?
Yeah, you've had your hair cut.
Oh yeah, took off the beard.
Very.
Putting my Viking back on, right? It's my Viking look. See?
You know what you've done? You've done something to your beard.
Yeah, I took all the side off, right? I took all this off and just left the front. Yeah. Took a few years off, yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. It suits you like that. Looks back now. He was talking about the fact that he's going to be talking to Mike Helmick and that after he's having a hangout with them. But you've been doing your own work, haven't you, Chris?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let Mark carry on there, and I'll catch up with the conversation. And if I have a question or something, I'll jump in. Good to see you, Mark. And
Hey there. What have you heard so far?
oh man, I don't know where I would start. We've analyzed hundreds of pictures and video and feeds and anomalies that were observed during the eclipse. There's obviously a debate as to whether or not the moon was even present or visible or any kind, and I can't find any evidence in my work that shows that it was in fact, conclusively 100% beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was the moon. I checked like the backscatter in images within the eclipsed part, right? You look into that red shadow zone and you'll see something that looks like craters and whatnot, some kind of detail. But that's, pixelation and backscatter, because when I look at the other side, on the outside of the sun, on the other range, where the moon or whatever that object is occulting the sun isn't present, you'll see the same thing, right? So another duplication of crater-like anomalies and so forth outside of it. So I can't find any evidence 100% that it was in fact the moon at all. Although it was present, according to the time and date, it's supposed to be lined up there. It's in a new moon phase, so you can't see it anyway, right? So,
what does your gut tell you?
My gut's telling me that. Well, I was just responding to a person in the Facebook feed here. So basically, where I'm going with it is there's some potentials here. One being electromagnetic light wave interference causing both anomalies at the same time. So one, you can't see the moon, and two, it's causing the eclipse because it's aligned in like a conical electromagnetic field. Could also be angular refraction within multiple lenses, like layers of crystal domes or superfluid layers, and the light, just the way it's coming in through a focal point, is canceling itself, like in a double slit experiment. When the waves cross, the wave front just cancels itself out because it changes phase. And the other one is a third transparent plasmoid or a black body radiation absorber that's basically doing the same thing, and it's interrupting the circuit. So if there's a black body absorber that came in between the light and where the moon might be, or whatever, even behind the sun, right? It could actually be behind where the sun is coming into our field of view. If it's behind it and it stops the light actually reaching the sun, temporarily just causing it not to shine, right? It could be the same thing, because it's absorbing all the energy temporarily that the sun should receive for 3 minutes or whatever, 3 hours, that type of thing, as it interferes, right? But that one's a little.
Chris, did you hear what Bad Christian said in her pictures? It just looked to her as if the sun ate whatever it was, and then it passed out again, but it sort of swallowed it up and then let it go.
Well, it would look kind of like that, yeah. But if you had a radiation, like a black body radiation absorber, come into the range where, so if the sun is drawing in energy, let's say it's coming from outside of itself, we kind of have to reverse our model a little bit and say that what's powering the sun is coming from outside of the sun and causing it to burn. And if there's a black body radiation body that interfered with that focal point that comes towards us, then you would end up seeing a reduction in the energy of the sun, which would kind of explain why you would see at the coronal effect edge, during P900 cameras, they caught some really nice clear images of the corona and what looks to be like lava, right? The coronal effect. And what I noticed on the P900s is there were some clear images. I'll see if I can pull them up here after. I'll have to search for them. But some clear images of the mass ejections coming off the surface of the sun. And it didn't look like just radiation and magnetic, photons being emitted, like, that type of eruption. It clearly looked to be semi-solid, and because it was erupting, but it wasn't moving. Like it was the same shape for 3.5 minutes, right? It didn't go boom and then kind of absorb back into itself, like none of those fancy NASA videos at all, right? It was just, there's something solid there, right? Like a giant wave of solid liquid magma or molten hydrogen, right? Liquid. It looked to be liquid to me. So I got a lot of information to dig through and try to figure something out that makes sense, because it has to cause all of those things at the same time, while not having a dramatic effect on the oceans and the tides and the dielectrics on the surface of the Earth, like the Alias effect. Maybe some people are familiar with the Alias effect. During an eclipse, there's what was his name? Trying to remember the guy's name now. They call it the Elias effect or Alias effect, anyway. But what he did is he swung a pendulum, like a Foucault pendulum, during an eclipse, and he noted that when the eclipse passed over, it changed the direction of the pendulum. It actually had a force change on the pendulum in its direction as it passed. The pendulum seemed to follow the path of the totality. And so the theory behind that is that somehow whatever's passing between the sun and causing the eclipse is also canceling out some of the magnetic field. So that's the strongest evidence of an electromagnetic interference of some kind is responsible for what we're seeing. And then there's that forward projection of the that crescent moon everybody saw, the crescent image. Not to say it's the moon, but the crescent image, a blue crescent image that focused right to a perfect, inverted image of the eclipse, but it was blue, right? It was clearly blue. So if it's blue, that means there's got to be a temperature change, right? You get the normal red refraction, which is just lens effect and lens flare in lenses because the sensors in the cameras see it as red light. But that blue thing, that's totally different, right? That implies to me there's a definite wavelength shift and a temperature shift. It's a wavelength being slowed down into the blue spectrum. It's gone out of red and slowed down to blue. So the only way that can happen is it's going to be passing through something that is actually causing the speed of the light wave to be reduced and focused to a point. So there's something there we're not seeing. That's where I'm at with it. I can't go beyond that right now, but there's something there we're not seeing, and nobody's getting it, and or at least those that know what it is aren't saying what it is. So.
Fascinating.
There was a couple of times on photographs I saw that the sun sort of, whether it was just the way that the camera took the photographs or the film, but it looked like the sun got really bright just for a millionth of a second, and then and the moon looks, well, sorry, the shape moving looks a bit weird as it's moving. It sort of moves in a weird way. Anyway, I've just seen that a few times on people's videos.
Yeah, I guess the simple way that I could try to explain that, what I think that effect was, and we all seen it, right, as it goes just into the totality, you get that flash, right, and it goes out and comes back real fast, and it's a very fast effect. And what I could explain that might be is like if you did have either a crystal dome and it just became into the focal point and it had to cross. So whatever's happening is the light has to cross to be canceled and reappear and then invert the image. So it's actually a reversal of the image. It just goes flash real fast. So the only thing that I could think of that could do that would be, like I said, it's an orb, and as the light enters into a translucent or a hollow type of focusing orb, then the light would have to go into the center of the orb, reverse, and come back out around the periphery and back to you as the observer. So that's going to take a little bit of time, but at light speed, that's not that long. It's just going to be snap your fingers and it goes out and reappears. And that's the coronal effect, right? That's why I'm saying there's something interfering with that path of light, and what it is, nobody's really saying. But I suspect that there are people that know. Maybe Mark has some opinions on that, because I know the NASA guys were following you around all day or whatever. So I'm curious to see how it went for you.
Well, no. NASA guys weren't following me, but they were definitely in the area, which was weird. They had launched a plane. It was one of the only times I've ever seen this. When you see planes flying overhead, whether they're contrails or chemtrails, it's always straight lines. It's always just crisscross. And there was no planes in the area at all, except for one. And it was like watching a commercial airliner that was lost. It was just doing these big circles, these big multi-mile circles up in the sky. And I'm going, who the heck are those guys? Did they actually, somebody, commercial jet airliner just went off, went rogue and said, okay, I'm just going to I want to watch the eclipse. I'm not going anywhere. But no, it was NASA. They were running experiments there with, I wouldn't say high altitude. It must have been over, 40,000 feet. But they were running experiments, and that's what they were kind of concentrating on. And someone had hinted to me recently, it's like, yeah, even they don't know fully what's going on, because up until now, they've never had a chance to look at it themselves. It may be an aspect for them that even they haven't had a chance to see. Of course, as our technology has progressed, you can take shots of the moon all day long. But as far as the sun goes, this is really, really rare by any standard. So I'm curious myself. I watched, what I can say is this: I watched DITRH, David Weiss. He did a cool little video where he pretty much replicated the eclipse from a simple standpoint using a flashlight through a toilet or a cardboard, like a paper towel tube, and then putting a bottle, like a Snapple cap in front of it. Just showing, and then projecting that onto another surface. And he goes, look, that's how easy you can block the light, and he was using basically a two-dimensional object to do it. It's like, yeah, you don't need to make it harder than it is. I know everyone's saying, it's two three-dimensional objects moving in front of each other. It doesn't have to be. It can be two very, very small objects and make them, they don't have to be three-dimensional really at all. So it's fascinating to me. I'm sure we'll be digesting this for a while, but that's why I'm going to do the show tonight with DITRH and Mike Helmick. I want those two in the same room to start bouncing ideas off each other. because their videos have been really good up till now. And again, the line from Mike, which was I thought was great. He goes, look, nothing caused that eclipse, and it's a great hook line, even though it's not exactly grammatically accurate. I think it's a good hook line, and that is what he's saying is what you thought was causing the eclipse is not what caused it. And mainstream has been pushing it as far as they can, but it's only going to help us. In fact, let me I don't want to go off on a rant here, but I did an interview pretty recently, and they asked me if the eclipse was going to help or hurt us, and I said it's going to do nothing but help us, because all the people that did research up until that point, I could see it in the numbers, we spiked, because it was too easy. It was low-hanging fruit for the media to say, what are the flat earthers thinking about the eclipse? Which means if you're looking at the eclipse, you're going to run into the story about what the flat earthers think about it, and then you're going to look into flat earth at the very least. And nobody in the flat earth community that I know backed down and said, well, the eclipse causes some problems, maybe we should reevaluate the whole flat earth thing. No, it was the exact opposite. They were just ravenous about it, saying, no, it's the best thing of all to look at, because now you're looking at it, mainstream's covering it, and we say that it's a flat earth eclipse. You say it's a globe eclipse. So that's my thing. It's my rant. I'm sticking to it.
That's eclipse.
The what?
Nearly a flat earth eclipse.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is.
Can I just ask about the actual footage? Everything I've seen has all been clouds. Is there any footage that's been taken by anyone that wasn't?
The footage that we had absolutely no clouds. I remember, I mean, if you saw that shot of me standing in that area, in that park in Oregon, there were no clouds in any direction. There was a little bit of smoke from the forest fires to the east. Unfortunately, all the footage we shot, it's not going to see the light of day. No play on words there. It's not going to see the light of day until they decide to do anything with the documentary. So They did shoot a lot of it, but none of it was released. I haven't even seen the dailies that they've done so far. I haven't seen, but I know they got some good shots.
Because all I saw, Mark, is everything I saw, either private, individuals, or where people like mainstream were doing it. Everything seemed to be with clouds, which it's very bizarre, where the sky was pretty clear leading up to it, I believe. I'm not sure if that's correct, but it was clear. And then all of a sudden, a load of clouds started to appear. So it's very convenient.
Yeah, it was very convenient, and I kind of laughed it off when someone said, well, multiple people said, oh yeah, they'll try to cloud up the United States the best I can. And I said, well, that's a lot of ground you have to cover. But if you're only talking about a 70-mile path, that's not so hard, especially if that path is where major air traffic flies, a lot of major air traffic from the northwest to the southeast. So yeah, the reports that I'd heard, because after us in Oregon, it went to Boise, Idaho, Cheyenne, Wyoming, Kansas City, Missouri, Nashville, Tennessee, and Charleston, South Carolina. I hadn't heard really any reports outside of us of the pictures that were taken. So it was interesting. In fact, again, I'm still trying to wonder why there wasn't a bigger media presence where we were, because the media were the ones that told us to be there. And it was, for us, it was literally, again, you'll see it in the picture. I mean, it was perfect, absolutely perfect conditions. And
have you got a link to it, Mark? Could I see that? Because I've not seen anything.
Yeah, well, Series has here. Series, throw up the picture that we had earlier on. Throw that up on the screen.
The other thing is, Mark, can I just ask you, did you actually pass on the email from the person from the Daily Mail, the Daily Star, referenced they want to do a news article? Did that come via you?
No. You mean, was it sent to you?
Yes, the guy's been in touch, but apparently, Karen, are you here? Yeah, basically, this guy's been in touch, but I've had him checked out, and he's, as with all journalists, they're obviously out to get an angle, and yeah. Even if they actually do a good job, their editors will actually dissect it and actually paint it in a bad light. And I think, I think there may be, unless it's confused with something else to do with a guy doing fashion or something, but your name was mentioned.
Why does that sound familiar now?
Can you remember, Karen?
I haven't talked to anyone
yeah.
from the Daily Mall. I know that. There
They
was.
said that you gave our address, our email addresses.
Oh! I'm sorry. That guy. I didn't know he was from Daily Mall.
No, it's Daily Star. Daily Star it is.
Either one. He did not mention to me he was from the Daily Star. He was just looking for contacts over in the UK area. He did not mention to me at all that he was media. And I said, well, if you want somebody, here's who you want. And I pointed him in your guys' direction. But I did not know it was media. You know me, I'll shoot people in different directions. But in his case, he did not identify himself.
Yeah, all I wanted to do, I just wanted to find out, Mark, is if you had any dealings with him and he seemed to be with integrity, then obviously
No,
I could proceed with a little bit less caution. I can be a bit more open, but I think I'm going to tread very carefully with him.
Yeah. I have no dealings with him. It was literally just a couple emails.
Awesome. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
So no worries. The what was I saying? So I completely forgot where I left off. Gary, you ruined it. Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome. I always try my best.
No. It was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I do my best to ruin things.
No. It was cool. If anyone, just so you guys know out there, I mean, if any media contacts me and I am not the right guy to talk to, I will absolutely forward them off to the right area. It is like the Ireland group Irish Ireland that want to contact somebody in the area, and I pointed them towards Dell and other people around the United States. It's like, look, absolutely, I can point. If I don't know, I can point you at least in the right direction. So
yeah. From my point of view, Mark, I'd rather you just pass it on, because it's up to me then to vet. You don't need, you've got enough on your plate. You don't need to vet what we do with that information. So I'm more than happy to pass on. That's fine.
Totally hear you.
Thank you.
Can I just say that Oliver's joined us? Hello, Oliver. Oliver Ludlow's joined us.
Hi, Oliver.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, it's Oliver.
Hello. It's always good to have you guys together, because we're all coming together next year for Gary's in the UK, April 2018 in Birmingham.
Cool.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
I will be there.
Anyway, I'll be there, Mark.
Hopefully, Mark. I don't like the sound of that.
Unless a natural disaster stops me from going, I will be there.
Yeah. Just to give everyone an update, even though it's been a saga upon saga, I'm going to a meeting, a final tick the box meeting tomorrow. So if for some reason there's a day delay, whatever, it will be out to the masses. I'm going to put my neck on the line and say it's definitely going to be out by Saturday. It may even be out by Friday this week. And the other thing is, just so everyone knows, I'm actually going to a meeting with, or several meetings actually, in Holland on a week Thursday, or week Friday, sorry, with Didi from Belgium, and she set up a load of meetings with the convention centres there for us to try and see if we can sort out locations for the European convention, if we can obviously get that off the ground. But even though we've got the speakers and we hopefully will have the venue soon, we then just need to get the people who wants to want to attend.
Cool.
So that's the latest.
Gary, is your email address your best one still Gary Johnson blah blah blah?
No, GaryJohn42@hotmail.com.
Crap. Hang on a second.
Yeah. I can send you a test email if you want, Mark. Yeah.
I don't have that one anymore.
You should again. GaryJohn42@hotmail.com.
This is about the UK's first Flat Earth Convention being organised by Gary John, who's just talking there, if everybody wants to know what this is about. And what it is that Mark Sargent and Oliver are going to be speakers there.
It's actually going to be a cage match between Oliver and I. So start working out, Oliver.
Who's going to be Merryweather?
It's not going to be a boxing match.
I'm white skin, so.
The only thing is, though, Mark, we can only get a purse of about 100 million, so I don't think you'd bother turning up for that.
I don't even get out of my bed for $500 million. So
we'll see what we can do.
No, I was just inserting some drama into the conference for you.
Yeah, I mean, we like drama.
Yeah. Oliver, You, me, two men enter, one man leaves.
Yeah. Sounds
Oh,
good.
actually, that's good because of the delegate rates for the food. If there's one or two dies, I don't have to buy so much food. That,
Or incapacitated enough to where they can't eat.
or I could say to Oliver and you, there's no point you eating because one of you will not survive. So why don't you eat afterwards? Build up your
Nice.
strength.
Nice. That's good.
I'm more heart.
So I emailed you, Gary, a couple pictures from the area where I was during the eclipse. One was the picture with the billboard was taken Sunday evening, and the one with the globe next to me was taken an hour before the eclipse. So
No, it's
kind
great.
of get
Thank you
an
for that,
idea.
Mark.
And I forwarded to you.
Is Oliver
Sorry, go
lives in Spain. Oliver, did anybody in Spain capture this eclipse? Because they did in Portugal.
Not that I know, because I think you can only see it from Canarias, the islands, and not from the rest of Spain, from what I know. I mean, no one's contacted me with images or anything.
Okay, thanks for that. Sorry, you were saying, Mark? Thanks for that, Oliver. Just checking.
I'd also sent the pictures to you as well.
Thanks for that. Okay, that's brilliant. I think that Chris has got some pictures up because remember he said he was going to get some pictures up to show. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, I'm just working on putting a quick file here together on the fly here. So just carry on there for a minute. There's a couple more pictures I want to locate and drop into this. I can run you through a quick little on the fly from the hip presentation here and just see what you guys think about it. Give me 5 minutes and I'll be right back.
Cool, thank you, Chris. And anyway, on conference day, I'm going to be looking after the speakers, so I'm going to be the referee. There'll be no deaths, will there, Gary?
Deadly silence. Well, again, if there are, there's just less food. That'd be handy. Imagine it. We end up starting with 10 or 11 speakers, and we end up with 6 or 7 or something. That'd make the press.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be amazing having so many people together, like all together, helping together, speaking together. It's going to be brilliant. Plus all the little things that you've got organised, Gary, to keep us all busy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a marathon. I think, but it's as good as the people there, isn't it? Really, I can do my best to organise it with the help of the speakers and the people like yourself and the other cool team. But it's as good as the people turning up and as good as the effort put in by the speakers and everyone involved.
Yeah, and it's going to be great to meet other flat earthers, because
But what is good, Oliver, is because there's going to be 275 odd people there. I think it's just going to be immense because when there's no presentations or question and answers happening, there's going to be a lot of networking and people getting together in the breaks. So
Right.
I think it's going to be a powerful weekend.
Yeah, there's this social part.
Yeah, and I also think the Saturday evening thing, where we have like the karaoke stroke. Flat Earth Got Talent, which I know sounds a bit corny, but it's just a bit of fun to let your hair down, really. And I haven't got much hair, so I'll be struggling to do that.
Because I see that there's a lot of meetups around the US recently, right? I saw Mark, you were in one recently that looked quite fun. How was that?
The meetup in Seattle, Washington, with D Marble and
Yes,
Patricia.
that one. That's
Oh,
the
that
one I
was
saw.
great. Oh my Lord. And that was fairly last minute, where D Marble and Paul on the Plane were in Flat Earth, Oregon. They had organized this great meetup in Seattle, downtown Seattle, right next to one of the sports stadiums. And Patricia flew in from Houston for it and stayed over, in north of Seattle. And then we drove around and did a bunch of stuff. But the meetup was loud. I mean, there were 50-something people there, and the energy was just off the charts. Everyone was so excited. There's some fantastic streams and great videos that people took while they were there. And they had to kick us out eventually, where we had the whole back room. And the restaurant had it was like a brewery, had closed down, and all the chairs were up on the tables. The cleaning crew had come through, and they still wanted to. We ended up moving out into the parking lot. There were still 20 of us left when I took Patricia back to her hotel, where they just wouldn't. Nobody wanted to leave. You know, you get that. It's that once you get in an area, I encourage anyone to do meetups, and so when you guys do your conference, it's going to be.
That means that Gary has to book another couple of days at the hotel because no one will want to leave.
I'm going early to the one that I'm doing in Raleigh in the fall. I'm going to show up a couple days early and leave a day late, just because you don't want to. Once you're in a room of people after being, especially if you've gotten any crap from your family or friends or coworkers, once you're in a room of people that share the same beliefs that you do, you don't want to leave. I mean, you get this weird sentimental feeling when you know, like when you're pulling away, it's like summer camp has ended. And even though you've only been there, 4 hours maybe, you just. So yeah, that's what happened with. In fact, D Marble, I remember he did a video.
What the beats do is they bring some kind of happiness, and because you're not having to. You could actually talk about flat Earth. You can do all sorts of things, and then you've got to say goodbye. It's yeah.
Yeah, it's that, and that lets you know how genuine the feelings are. Where once you, it's the energy levels. I'm not kidding you. It was tough to hear in that room with that many people, because the volume levels just keep going up and up and up, and and that was my 5th one I think I've done, and it was still it doesn't get old by any stretch. It's just a great feeling, really authentic, really positive, and you leave there knowing that you're not alone. It's kind of like a feeling of finding a new family, like going to a family reunion and running into cousins you never even knew you had.
But isn't it mad, Mark, that because I went to a mixer yesterday with Nathan and Martin Leakey and a few other people, and you've never met some of these people, but you know them and you shake their hand and you're engaging immediately. There's no barriers to break down. There's no barriers there. It's just an automatic friendship. Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah, and you kind of expect there's going to be, even if people have disagreements in the different types of models and because everyone's got a slightly different idea about what's going on, those just melt away instantly because you don't care. It's like, oh, let's just talk about whatever. Yeah, let's just go over it, and people, it turns into a real cheerleading session, which is fine. I love the positive aspect of it, and I get it. There's a reason why there's so many of them popping up. In fact, I just did my 3rd. I asked on one of my shows, it's like, hey, look, where are all the ones in Los Angeles? Because they hadn't done any up until really recently, and the 3rd one in Los Angeles, Orange County, I just put up the trailer yesterday for it, and so they're going to be doing their thing. And I know the energy levels are up. You shouldn't do them every week. If you can help it, you shouldn't do them every week because you will get burned out. But definitely do them. If you can do them once a month, hey, great. Or every couple months, I don't know. It's completely worth it. Recommend it to any city that's out there.
Busier on meetups this year than last year, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Things have comes in waves when it comes to flat Earth. The meetups really just started taking off just this year. Yeah, we had a few last year, sure, but nothing compared to this year. And people figure out that it's easy to do, and then they do it. We've had people that are doing meetups in food courts or in parks or wherever they can. Let's just go meet up somewhere. It doesn't have to be formal. I made the mistake of doing my first one, kind of trying to do it more formal in a restaurant. It still turned out great, but I didn't have to do all that. We could have met literally anywhere and people would have showed up for it. So if you want to do it in your city and you want me to do a promo for you, just tell me where you're going to do it. You pick the place, you put your phone number and your email out there. I will build the thing for you and you go on your way.
Mark, can I just say 2 things? One is, I think from what I've seen of D Marble, I think he's a really cool guy. And I love his
really cool guy.
He does some really good and neat experiments, and everything he says, I resonate with everything. The other thing is, I think that we need to maybe do a crowdfunding or whatever and buy a horse and call it Flat Earth or something. Get it?
Buy a horse?
Yeah, and have it running with the name Flat Earth or something.
Oh, you mean like a racehorse?
Yeah, yeah, and basically
not
everyone
bad.
we invest in whatever, you know. Well, everyone puts in a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds depending where you live, and we actually push this horse to be racing every week or every couple of weeks, whatever it is, and it's called Flat Earth.
It will be well when it actually wins.
But you imagine that though, if you know, if you actually have this on the TV on most weeks, it'd be fantastic.
That's nice. I like
Yeah,
that.
so-
It's good. We've been getting. I mean, there's been so much media exposure recently. The I don't know what's going to happen after the eclipse. That was a real big one. But there's been no shortage of news people tying to this. I'm still waiting. You know, I did a CNN interview not that long ago, and I've been still waiting to see what happens with that. You know, some people are kind of holding back, like the one for Patricia down at the Houston Chronicle. You know, they came out twice, shot pictures. I know they built the whole article. Of course, they've been sort of sidetracked by the natural disaster. But there's just some people. Some of them don't run them instantly. They hold on and they hold on. The one that was even run by my local paper here, he said he had been sitting on it for weeks before he even decided to do it because of that fear. You know, you don't want to, even as a journalist, you don't want to put yourself out there because you think it's too risky. You think there's going to be a backlash. And he finally decided to go through with it. And I hope more people do, well, not necessarily the right thing, but the brave thing and get out there. You know, if you want to, and none of them have regretted it from what I can tell. Nobody that's run a story on Flat Earth has regretted it because it generates so much interest. And that's what people want. All the producers have told me the same thing, which is whether you love it or you hate it, as long as you're talking about it, that's what matters. It's like, yeah, it's polarizing is what they want. They don't want something boring. It's like, oh yeah, it's flat. Everybody knows. Or, you know, they don't want the other side where everybody condemns it because it's obviously a sign of severe mental illness. They like that balance.
Do you think we've got a mental illness? They do, so that's what comes out of when you try and tell someone they think you're mentally ill.
Well, I can't speak for myself. I mean, I don't have any problems or anything like that. But I mean, it's you can't tell. It's no, of course. It's there's nobody's got mental illness. Everybody's. In fact, when I was being interviewed by the documentary team, I remember when he decided to finally go forward with it. He said that what shocked him the most is how normal I appeared to be, because that's the impression from a lot of people out there. Because in the media they have pushed this, they pushed Flat Earth as sort of a what is it, an adjective it's a term. It's basically the highest level of crazy. So there's crazy, there's really insane, and then if you're one notch above that, you're obviously a flat earther. And so he was expecting someone to be really, really out there. And I wasn't going to give it to him because it's not in me. And I would imagine that the big conference coming up, the same thing's going to happen there, where there's going to be media showing up wondering where are all the Looney Tunes, where are the people with wearing tinfoil hats and dressed in funny costumes. You know, they're kind of like you would see at a Star Trek convention or Comic-Con or something like that, but it's the exact opposite. Oh, these people are just like you and me, which is why we blend in so well. And also why 90% of the community is still in the closet, because they can be. You know, we don't wear badges or weird stickers on our cars or anything like that yet. So, I mean, did I tell you the story when I was down at the conference in Atlanta, what happened to me?
Tell us.
Oh, I should show you. In fact, I'll email the picture here real quick. I will, you know, while I'm waiting, Chris had some pictures already queued up, didn't he? He's been waiting so patiently.
Yeah, he's going to show them in a minute.
All right, give me 1 second then. Let's see. There's pictures. Well, you know what? I'll tell the story without pictures, because you don't need the picture for necessarily.
If you need some time, I can go through it, but it's going to take me probably 10 minutes or more to go through what I got to go through. So,
all right, well, let me do this real quick. It won't take 2 minutes.
Okay,
so I'm down at the a Flat Earth conference in Atlanta, Georgia. It was a biblical conference where I was watching Zen Garcia go up against Dr. Stephen Pidgeon, and two things happened to me which were really unexpected down there. One was when we broke for lunch on the first day. We went out to a little sports restaurant, you know, a pub type of place, which was literally right next to the hotel. And nobody nobody at that restaurant knew what we were doing. And there were 4 or 5 of us sitting at a table and we were talking about flat earth fairly loudly and enthusiastically. And the bartender, who was literally at the other side of the restaurant, she had to have been like 27, 28. She comes over and she goes, "Hey, you guys talking about flat earth?" I go, "Yeah, why?" She goes, "High five." Right. And she was a closet flat earther. She didn't really talk about it with it. She's not online talking about it with people, but she was a closet flat earther. And she didn't even know the conference was happening. That was in the way, and that alone would have been enough for me for the trip, and to let me know that there's a lot of people out there that are into this. But I go to the airport, and I'm flying out. As you know, they do security checks, and they were checking the bags. I don't know what they do over there, but when they run your bag through the X-ray machine, either gets passed or it goes into secondary screening randomly or non-randomly. And this one mine goes into secondary screening, and I'm kind of waiting for it. And this young kid, he couldn't have been, again, 25, 26. He sees me, right? And I'm wearing my I Am Mark Sargent shirt, which was given to me by a listener. And he motions me up, right? And he keeps looking at the shirt, looking at my bag, and looking at the shirt, looking at my bag. And then he goes, "Are you Mark Sargent for real?" And I go, "Yeah, why?" And he looks at me and he winks and he goes, "That's my name too." And he hands me the bag without even checking it. And I was going, holy smokes. There's another guy. This kid, he was basically saying that he was a flat earther too. The whole "I am Robert Paulson." We're all Robert Paulson. And I got on my plane. I'm thinking, okay, this thing's way bigger than even I thought it was. Again, 90% of our community are out there, but they can't go public with it because they're afraid of the backlash. And so people say, are there thousands? I go, no, there's millions at this point. Absolute millions. They go, no, you're exaggerating. I'm going, look, even if it was just the United States, 1% of the United States population would be 3 million people. I'd say safely that we are way beyond that, judging by the massive numbers that I'm seeing in the metrics in Google and YouTube. Anyway, that's my little story. But while Chris is doing his thing, I'll send you guys a picture of the waitress that I was talking about. I didn't get a picture of the security guy, but that's probably a good.
Yeah, it's definitely in the.
Carry on.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Oliver.
Yeah, I was saying it's definitely in the millions of people that know about this, and the media is catching up right now. Remember, Karen, I showed you a newspaper article the other day that they wrote about me. A Spanish, quite known newspaper wrote an article about me and Flat Earth. Of course, they were really, kind of bashing me and Flat Earth, but still, it got to lots of people. And you could see in the comment section, there were like hundreds of comments, so the article, it's good for the newspapers. They know that because it generates, as you said, Mark, lots of, controversy and all that. And lots of people view the article. And they want that, but they have to, mainstream media has to bash Flat Earth. They have to do it in public, because otherwise they couldn't publish the article, right? I mean, they're not going to do a pro Flat Earth newspaper article or news report. But it doesn't matter. The information gets out there, gets people curious about it, and I'm seeing more and more media getting interested in Flat Earth. In fact, yesterday I spoke with a famous radio station here in Spain. They wanted to interview me about Flat Earth exclusively. And I was like, wow, like, what is this? What's going on here? So it's definitely growing. And I think we're in the millions.
Absolutely.
And it's not being talked about, yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's for a lot of people, it's scary. I was lucky, where the people that were around me weren't going to condemn me. Of course, I grew up pretty weird anyway, pretty eccentric. So it wasn't a big stretch. But if you're just an average person and all of a sudden, which is why I just cringed when anyone ever told me this, they'd go to a family dinner or a Thanksgiving or a holiday or whatever it was and go to the table and say, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm into Flat Earth now. That's a bold move. I don't know if I'd do it. Yeah,
I remember the last family meeting at Christmas, And they were like, because they all see my videos, and they were like all asking me, like in secret, you know, in secret, they were like, "Do you really believe in flat Earth?" They were all asking the same, and I'm like, "Yes, research it." And they were like, "Okay, okay, I'll research it." So yeah, it creates these kind of strange moments when you're with family and they know you're a flat earther and they still don't know anything. They haven't researched anything. But you know, we have to be strong in there. Or even when you're with close friends that, you know, they disagree with you, it can be tough for lots of people, you know, to be openly a flat earther.
It feels like that. It feels like people are they just get so angry.
Yeah, and lots of people just want to avoid that, you know, that external anger at them, so they don't say anything about flat Earth. But I honestly, I don't care at this point. I mean, I guess if you make YouTube videos, yeah, you're kind of already used to that, to the bashing and all that.
Can I just add, Oliver, when I first started telling people that I was a flat earther, it was very hard to put up with the ridicule or the laugh at you or whatever. Whereas now my skin and my conviction is so much stronger that it's easier, and I don't, you know, I don't shout it from the rooftops if people don't want to hear it. But if I do actually say that I'm a flat earther, I actually can do it with almost with pride. Really, I don't, you know, where before it was hard. It isn't anymore.
Yeah, flat Earth is definitely making people tougher, you know, better people actually, because you learn how to stand for what you believe.
Yeah, well, also us lot have been looking into it more, haven't we? So we can't go back.
No, once you
We've
go
been
flat,
here
there's
and
no going back.
Once you go flat, you just cannot go back. I put a figure. I didn't want to quite say it in case I got it wrong. I put a figure. Z Proxy has said Sun and Moon Group report searching flat Earth update about. Can anybody read what that number is in the chat room? What is that?
Oh,
18 million, 700,000. Yeah.
Yeah, 18,700,000. What that means is if you go into YouTube and you type in flat Earth and then you sort by upload date, because that gives the most correct numbers, it will come out at 18.7 million. And you're saying, okay, what does that number mean, you know, in comparison to something else? So like if I go in and I type in NASA, YouTube comes in at 8.5, 8.6. And so we're more than doubling NASA, and we'll take another mainstream. The one of my favorites to use is Lady Gaga. So I go Lady Gaga, and if you type it in normally, she comes in at 9.1. But if you sort by upload date, she comes in at 16.7. So those are huge numbers, and you got to remember, well, you could do this with just about anything. And of course, we're not scoring as high as Taylor Swift or Katy Perry or that, but you do something like fun, like the I don't know, the Beatles, right? That's something for your neck of the woods. Beatles come in at sort by upload date at 13.5, which is, again, these are all massive institutions and massive media presences with marketing dollars that are out of this world, and we are scoring higher than them. Out of any, you could pick any mainstream topic you want, and we are generally beating them or on par with them. And we've done that with the exception of the billboards and a few other things where we paid out of pocket for, almost no marketing money. And it's just amazing. Then, of course, the fun browser search. If you go into any browser and you type in, like I go into Google and I type in the Earth, first thing that comes up on mine and a whole bunch of other people's is flat. Or you can type in the Earth is, and I almost guarantee it'll show up the Earth is flat. We didn't even try to do that. And that's every browser in the modern world. That was just a side effect, because so many people, once you get into it, they just type it over and over and over and over again, because they're always searching for it. If they're not searching for YouTube, they're searching it on Google. And you're saying, well, that can't be possible unless there's millions of people doing this. I'm going, yeah. Then go, where are these millions of people? Why aren't there this huge flood of YouTubers that's taking over? I go, because they're worried, like I was talking about before. It's the Spice Girls. syndrome. And you guys know Spice Girls. You invented them, which is well, no, it is completely Spice Girls, and that is Chris Rock talked about it. He did a perfect comparison. He said, he goes, look at the Spice Girls big album, you know, tell me what you want, what you really, really want, that whole thing. And he goes, won Grammys, right? Millions of copies sold, and yet no one admits to owning it. Why not? Yes, because you never played it in front of your friends. You kept it somewhere else, and you played it when you were only you in the room.
ABBA.
That's
a lot of people do that with ABBA as well.
As well, not as much, but yeah, ABBA, yeah, to a certain degree. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of what it is with flat Earth. It is. That's why I made a series of videos tracking the numbers, and I called it the world's secret guilty pleasure, which is tons of people know. It's that secret little thing you only give out to your friends. It's kind of like a drug in a way. It's, you know, it's like you walk up to buddy. It's like, hey man, you're into conspiracies and stuff. I got something for you right here. It's flat Earth. Oh no, don't take too much. No. It's flat Earth, man. And that's really what it's kind of like. Or you warn them ahead of time. It's like, man, I'm warning you. I'm going to give you this flat Earth. But if something happens to you, you can't come back on me. All right? All right, be cool. I mean, it's so much like that when I'm watching this with people. They kind of, it's this secret, but it's not a secret, which is why 2 years ago I did the whole Fight Club thing. That's what it reminded me of. And that is the first rule of Flat Club is you do not talk about Flat Club. Which means you do, but only with people you sort of trust. You know, people that are cool, the cool kids. That's what I think we are.
Can I just ask
Go
you,
ahead.
Mark? Do you know what the numbers are or were? Sorry, this time last year compared to the year before that. So obviously we can see the trends.
Oh, 18.7. Oh no, it's done nothing but up.
No. Do you know what the numbers were a year ago?
Oh yeah. A year ago they weren't even. I think they were like 11 or 12. I mean, you can start tracking it from literally the beginning, where in the beginning of 2015, they were way less than 1 million, way less than 1 million. I mean, less than 100,000. And then it just started, and I started noticing it right away to where, and it was in the general filter. So you didn't even have to sort by upload date. So we got to a point, and I was making videos, I think when we got to like 8 or 9, and then YouTube changed the algorithms. And they did what's called in the software world like a stat squish, and all of a sudden we went from 10 million something or 11, I can't remember the exact number, down to I made a video said in one night, because I watched the switch, we lost 3 million search results in an evening, and I watched it happen, and I took the screenshots and I documented it, and then I remember putting the video out there, and it was interesting because Bob from Globebusters wrote me almost immediately. He goes, no. He goes, the numbers are still there. I go, where are they? He goes, yeah, sort by upload date. Because that's all I ever do, because that shows you the most recent stuff. I was going, oh, and so they never did that. They never fixed the upload date one, and to this day, and it's been at least a year now. So, but yeah, it's been just ramping up and ramping up and ramping up to where, again, we're scoring, which is why the producers are finally taking notice. The numbers are too high for mainstream, not mainstream media, but mainstream producers to ignore it, because they smell the opportunity there, and for better or worse, they're gonna take advantage of it. And so yeah, the calls that I get, it's all the same thing. It's like, look, it's an easy pitch to do to people. It's like, okay, look at the numbers. All right, fine. You don't want to do the numbers? Look in your browser. Tell me why the Earth is flat keeps showing up in your browser. Well, we didn't do anything to that. Why is it showing up there? You know, Frito-Lay spends a ton of money so that people, when they type in the browser, the best potato chip in the world is, or the best potato, you know, there's marketing soda companies. Every company you can think of wants their thing to be at the top of the search engines. And we did it without even trying. So that shows you, talk about branding. Oh, that's a testament, in my opinion. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, if I can just add, Mark, if it was 11 million a year ago, and the year before that was, you said 100,000 or less than 1 million.
Yeah, less than 1 million.
There's a couple of things. One is the exponential growth this time next year is obviously going to be quite significant compared to now. At least, well, I would say 25 million is absolute minimum, but it could even be double that. But you've also got 2 conventions on the way, so that's actually going to create activity as well.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it really comes down to the breakout moments, like when B.O.B., the music artist, and Neil deGrasse Tyson were doing their thing back and forth, or when Kyrie Irving from the basketball group came out and did those things, really create a spike. There's been and there was a real spike recently. I think it was because of the eclipse, where we jumped from 17.8 to 18.7 in barely even a month.
Yeah, there was a spike with the eclipse. Yeah, I noticed
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was just watching that thing to where I watched it go from. I literally watched it go from like 18.5 to or 18.4 to 18.6 in a day, and I was going, okay, what, you know? And it was, yeah, part of it was right after the eclipse. So it really depends on the world events, what's coming down the pipe. If something else happens, I mean, honestly, you know, if Trump slips or if somebody slips and anybody breaks ranks and mainstream and goes with this story, if like CNN decided to run this story. Who knows what the spike may be, but I'm looking for him, and hopefully we'll get another one big soon.
Can I just say that Chris is ready now? Chris has got his stuff ready. All yours, Chris. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm gonna just do a screen share here and hopefully I won't cut in and out too much on the Wi-Fi.
Is that an electric guitar you've got there?
Yeah, I got a custom Ibanez in the background.
Oh, I've got an Ibanez too. That's great.
And a Clark Cole here too. I don't know if you can actually see that. There's a Clark Cole.
You get here, Chris, quite often. It's great.
Yeah, that Clark Cole was given to me by a friend of mine, Manelli Jamal. If you're into acoustic music, you should check out Manelli Jamal if you want your mind blown with finger style.
Yeah.
So he
well,
gave me
I
that
played mostly like metal, you know, heavy metal.
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah. Well, I play a little bit of everything, classical, metal stuff.
Yeah, he's multi-talented, is Chris.
A little bit of everything. I got my fingers into a lot of irons in the fire. So just to talk eclipse here. I know Mark is saying you have a hangout later on with Mike Helmick and a few others, so I'm not going to get too much into the image processing. I'll leave that with you guys for later on. But what I'm going to present will definitely back up what I'm sure Mike and your group will be talking about later with the Photoshop and the imaging, trying to bring out a moon in the image is the main key that we've been trying to work on. So what I did was I went and made a model of an eclipse. This is a 3D screenshot. So this is in Blender, I made a model, put a solid object in the model, put the light source behind it, put in the atmospheric particulate matter to the right ratios and densities of air, and with the right anisotropic properties of light coming through an air medium, and hit it with the light to simulate the sun, which is this is to scale, so it's at 1.5 million lumens, and the distances are correct to try and simulate an eclipse. And what the model renders, as you can see, you would expect to see a crescent around the actual object itself as it enters into totality, which no one saw or observed in reality. And then I went to the next phase to say, okay, well, how would the light distribution work within that type of anisotropic particle system? So as light hits a solid object, you would expect to see the same crescent with a little bit of backscatter lighting around it. As the light comes around a solid object, you would get a rendering of the entire orb, i.e. if it is the moon or a solid object, in the field in the camera lens with the filter on, right? And you should see a bouncing effect off of the front face, the leading edge. As the light hits the object, it bounces out radially, right? So that's what all these lines are in the blue spectrum, because it goes to red and then slows down as it reflects, it polarizes. So all reflecting light polarizes and heads backwards and creates this effect on the other side. And then the non-polarized light comes around the other side and creates these halos, which is what we see normally, moon halos, sun halos, rainbows, etc. So that's actually what light is supposed to do. And then for a comparison, so this is my control, right? This is what it should look like. And for comparison, I took some moon shots from some friends of mine, really excellent photos. Did the same process on it, didn't change the settings. I just changed the process, just changed the photo, used the same settings for the analysis. And a moon shot would transpose to this. So you'll see this is the crescent at the front, now brought forward, and you can still see that there is a moon object in the background. This is like backscatter light. And then I compared that to, let's see, this image here. This is during the eclipse as it approached totality. And what I found the most fascinating about this is you get the red split spectrum that appears in the sensors of the cameras, which isn't that unusual. You see refraction and lens flaring that kind of splits the image in the red spectrum. But what was fascinating was this thing here, being that it's an inverse image of this side of the object coming around and being inverted backwards and being forward projected. So it's being forward projected to you as the observer on the ground to a centralized focal point. So it's this thing, whatever it is, whatever the light's coming through, being refracted and being projected like a lens to you at the ground and appearing in front of you. And you can kind of see if I zoom in a little bit on this image. Oops, go back one, right there. So this is the actual object being refracted, and there's a whole bunch of little tiny ghost ones in the air. Right, you can kind of see them being split out in the air. And what happened during the eclipse, well, I'll show you how that analyzes actually first. So what I analyzed was I took it to this spectrum gradient to take out some of the red and bring the black forward, right, so I could, wash out all the interfering light patterns to see what I could see. And it renders out to this here. And there's some interesting things in this picture. So here's that object again being forward projected. There is something, a little bit of a dot up here that appears to be a physical object of some kind. And then this gradient shows the edge of whatever is causing the eclipse. It cannot be seen, so it's actually not visible. Because when I take it to the other spectrum, like I did with the moon and my control, there's nothing there, right? Absolutely nothing. Except you can see that something is causing the magnetic field, which is, light traveling through the field is photons, and photons have magnetic fields. So, magnets can bend light as they travel through, they become polarized. You can see that this is the focus point, and those little half moons do kind of sort of appear in the gradient. But whatever's causing the eclipse is completely absent. There's nothing there. And so when I went to the next phase of the analysis to see, well, what can I see if I invert that to a negative and amplify it? So I did that to try and find out what was there, if anything. And then what I found was, well, there's the light because it's intense, so it comes out just as a gray wash because this is a negative. And whatever is supposed to be there is not there, but you can see that it is having an effect on the light scatter in the negative field. And whatever is coming through that object down to create this half moon is causing a bending of the light being forward projected down here. So the angle's coming through from the top right down through the object, appearing here to be forward projected to the center of frame, and then scattering in the background below it in the left. So that tells me there's an electromagnetic cause. There's an electromagnetic force that is causing this to happen in that gradient. And I did it in two different gradients just to amplify it to see what's really happening here.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So then the next thing is, okay, well, what's causing that, right? And the typical NASA response in their videos online and the mainstream media is that what we're seeing, that blue object, if I go back here, this blue object here is coming down through the atmosphere above our heads, through our air and everything else. And it's being forward projected and causing all these little moons on the ground by the millions. People took thousands of pictures of these. Sometimes, depending on if you were north of the equator or south of the equator, they would appear upside down. Or if you were north of the equator, they appeared the other way, right? With the crescent facing up, and they were being inverted as a shadow. So this is like the same image being rendered as white light on the ground, because it's going through the blue into the white and spectrum change. So then I said, well, how far, where is that actually happening and what's causing it? And I looked at some high altitude footage at 75,000 feet with the 360 camera. And that's what the eclipse looked like at 75,000 feet through a 360 camera.
Wow.
And there's all those little orbs again. I was like, wow, right? Like literally, wow. And there's the orbs. And you can see that, you know, there could be a little bit of frosting or ice or whatever on the lens camera, but it's at altitude, right? So it's cold up there, 75,000 feet. But that doesn't say that that's the cause. What that tells me is the angle of light that's being projected to the lens, because you're getting an unequal distribution of light scatter. Some are over here. This one's being illuminated more than this one. This one's a full dead on center. So this means the light's coming almost perfectly to the center of the lens as it looks out through the medium. You're getting a really nice rendering of the image. So that tells me that's a multiple diffraction pattern, right? It's coming from all angles in a like your perspective, right? Your degrees of your perspective coming at all angles into a center point. So it's multiple diffraction, right? There's no way of getting around that. So this millions of these diffraction angles are now being projected down onto the cat. And it's not just cats, it's dogs too. There's a dog, right? So we're going to be fair. The dogs got it too, yeah. It's raining cats and dogs. Yeah. So
Raining moons on cats and
raining
dogs.
moons on cats and dogs, yeah, exactly. So, you know, we've all kind of most of us have seen that video where, you know, it was particularly NASA was trying to explain that, oh, that's just a pinhole effect where the light comes through the trees and causes the trees to act like pinhole cameras, and you get multiple projections on the ground. Well, being an artist and painter, I mean, that's another one of my hobbies. I do music, art, and paint. I know how pinhole cameras work, right? And what a pinhole camera will do is you can take a pinhole camera light, and what it does, it'll actually invert the image, but it projects the entire field of view, right, through a pinhole, and replicates the entire image on a background, right? It is true that pinhole cameras will work, but pinhole cameras will not split multiple images into multiple refractions unless it's coming from multiple angles. You see what I mean? You'd have to have a million holes in this type of screen, or on that mirror. This one's actually being projected through a pinhole and reflected off and bouncing in the room. But you'd have to have millions of holes in it, and each image coming from a different angle in order to get multiple images of the same thing from all different angles, like a three-dimensional effect. And that's what that is on the ground, is a three-dimensional scattering. Right? It's coming from all angles, every direction, multiple intensities. So there's no way to say that that is a pinhole camera effect. And we have to reverse that in our minds. Well, here I'll show you something here with the moon here. To be fair, we'll compare a picture of this image I showed you before with that orb thing, compared to a moon that Judith sent me. This is one of Judith's pictures. And she had sent me, and she said, here's the red. So the red is normal, right? And this green here, greenish area, if I was to invert that and do the same thing, you would see that, well, that's this just being reversed, right? That's normal. Light bouncing, there's the orb. But in this case, there is nothing here, and it's being forward projected through a lens, right? That's the only way. That's the comparison. The moon will scatter it and cause a flash image or a flare of itself. And this is completely different. So it's not the same thing. So then I concluded that, let me see what else is going on. One of the best explanations I could come up with in a model to say how is that happening is this image here. So I took it into a model. I made an orb. This is a plasma field of UV light. This is a solid object in a 3D model. So the light scatters everywhere within the model itself. So it's just like a square, but the light source scatters everywhere. So it's going in all directions. But since the source is localized to a projected point, as the light bounces around in the field, the particles go through the orb and go back to the source. So that creates a shadow. So if you imagine that you were standing in this inside of this orb looking back towards the sun, you would actually be seeing your own shadow, canceling out the light that's trying to reach you, because now it's going back just as fast as it is trying to come towards you. It's your own shadow, in essence, traveling backwards. That's one of the processes I'm trying to understand, see how that works. Then I simulated in a model the same setup. So I took a light, a very intense light, 1,000,000 lumens. This is a solid, right here is a solid moon simulated object, or something to interfere. It's a sphere to interfere with the light. And then this area here is a simulated dome lens to give it something to appear on and focus on. And then this field underneath here is a particle field. So it's a semi-transparent particle field to simulate the atmosphere. So it hits that, bounces through, creates the half moon through the air, and bounces on the ground to create the half moon over here. So that was my first attempt to say what can be causing this. So you can see that in this rendering, in this model setup, it's just a projection, like a standard projection at a movie theater type of idea. So it's backlit. This would be like, what was his name that did the one with the monkeys, you know, the Space 2001. Yeah, Stanley Kubrick came up with this back projection type of thing, right? So the whole NASA thing. But anyway, that's kind of like what they use. But you can see you only get one rendering of the image, and as it travels through the lens, hits the air, travels to the ground, it expands to create, you know, what would be a shadow on the ground or illuminated crescent. It's not making millions of them, right? It's only making one. And no matter where you move the light source, you're only going to get one image projecting forward through that type of lens. So that tells me that in order to make this happen, you need millions of lenses, individual crystals, and the light has to be traveling down the center of a crystal to be projected like a hologram or like a laser. Like when you do a laser, you send the light through a crystal, make a perfect laser, focus the light, and then it hits the ground like a laser beam from many, many angles, all at the same time. Cliffs, without an object being there, the best explanation I could come up with for that so far is electromagnetic interference. So the light is there, but whatever that object is a black body radiation absorber that has an intense electromagnetic field, enough so that it'll allow some light to pass through its periphery surface, because it must have a boundary layer to have a charge, but it's so negatively charged on the inside, it absorbs everything that comes into it and lets very little of it come out. What does come out comes out in the blue spectrum, and what is inside of it is absorbing all the light and just making a black hole. It's like literally a black magnetic hole. Nothing comes out of it. So I took that idea and I took this image of the eclipse sent to me by a friend and started to say, okay, the light scattering from around the outside is following a magnetic pattern. This is just a magnetic toroid. So I'm trying to visualize that in 3 dimensions to either rule out that it is an electromagnetic orb object or a planetary object that's above the dome and interfering with the light path trying to reach the surface and just canceling it all out. And it has some interesting ramifications too. What happens, you know, the NASA thing where it's a forward projected image on the ground makes absolutely no sense, because if I showed you that picture of the moon here again, I'll scroll up here. there's the moon, and we should see that if that's actually reality, and as light passes through trees, right, then every crescent moon and every moon phase would come through the trees at night, and you would see animals in the forest that look like this, right? They would adapt, right, to be camouflaged, right? You know, every bird that flew over the sky as the moonlight came down, or the sunlight came down, would be projected as a secondary image on the ground, and you'd have, you know, one bird would appear like an entire flock on the ground, and every animal predator be running around chasing ghosts that don't exist, right? So if your mind is going to accept that forward projection thing of NASA and pinhole cameras, I'm just suggesting you think again, right?
Can I ask you something, Chris? Is this only happening at the eclipse, or does those pictures with the shadows of the moon, or can that happen at any time, or is this just in the eclipse?
This is just during the eclipse. See, and that's what makes me ugly, is because I think it was either Time or Now This did the NASA video, and it actually says in that NASA video that this happens normally all the time. Sunlight or light, this is a normal process. Well, that's a complete and utter nonsense. It's not a normal process. It only happens during eclipses. Like I said, otherwise the moon would do it every day, right, through the forest and the trees, and the sun would do that every day. If something passed between it and the, you know, pinhole camera in a tree, and there was a bird sitting in the tree, well, then you would see 1,000 birds on the ground, right? It doesn't happen, right? And it just blows my mind why that is. Yeah. But the long story short, if I can bring up some other, you know, it's
Can I
clear to
just
me that
say,
this is
in the chat room, Ditra, Dave, down the rabbit hole, Dave, he asked if you would show your tree with the apples in it.
the tree. Yeah. So clearly what's going on to me is that we are, you know, on the plane of inertia, right? We experience in this center point where the two negatives and positive come together and balance in a neutral. We experience a slightly biased system that's slightly biased towards the positive. So it keeps us down, right? We experience that as gravity. We're on the plane of inertia in the center of a magnetic field, toroidal, like a double toroidal field. All the light that's outside of it is coming through the firmament. You could call it the firmament, the dome, which could be, I don't know what it's constructed of. It's, you know, like liquid molten glass that keeps everything from, you know, keeps us safe. It creates a dome so that we have pressure in the system. You can't have an open system to vacuum and still maintain pressure, right? It just doesn't work. So you have to have something to contain the pressure that we experience as atmospheric pressure of 14.6 psi, whatever the number is. It's around 14 psi, right? And that's the only way that would work. And we're on this inertial plane, and this is like the tree up the center cone, right? The tree of life, the whole 9 yards. It's right there, and it goes in both directions. There's a negative and a positive. We just happen to be on the positive side of it, right? Which gives us the sense of gravity, but it's also neutrally negative. Like our bones are made of dielectrics, calcium. You know, our bodies are made of water. We have salt in our bodies. We have some iron in our bodies. So if the iron flows in the positive direction, it allows our blood to flow. The dielectrics and the negative side of it in our bones is actually what's holding us up. So it's the bottom side, the negative, that's actually allowing us to stand, because it's actually levitating us to a certain degree, you know, helping our bones, which are calcium, float in a magnetic field. So that's the basic construct, and we're in the center of it. So then I got looking at the electrical side of it and studying the moon. Since we're talking the moon and the eclipses here, a friend of mine, Brad Gillen, he sent me these pictures, and what we did was oversaturated them just to bring out some of the colors of the image we were seeing. And the images in the color phase lines up with anodizing of titanium and other rare alloys. So the charge that causes the craters, which are all at 90 degrees to the surface, so nothing comes in at an angle, they're all sparked and arced to the surface to cause the craters on the moon. You can actually see the approximate voltage required at each point if you do it in a color spectrum. right? So as color changes, the more you saturate it, the deeper the color. So the golds were at about 50 volts, you know, million amps, whatever it was, right? High amperage, right? Low volt, high amperage, and just went bang and creates this crater, right? Some of them are negative, some of them are positive. The ones that have a raised center would be, you know, the inverse of the ones that don't, right? It's just the inverse polarity. And you can call out some of the, you know, people that are trying to post images like this one here and superimpose the moon over front. I'm sure Dave or Mike will probably talk about that when he meets up there, but so I won't get into that too much, but that's what it really looks like in reality. So let's see. The next thing is kind of some evidence of that is in order to have a multiple diffraction, right, of it coming through a lens and getting more than one image on the ground, you have to have the object between, and the lens is between, the object is actually between the light source and the lens, and it just diffracts into multiple images. And here's another image. Now this person got a cool image. This came, Monique Chenard from Moncton here. She sent me a video, a link to a fellow that actually was talking about the Moon Group and asked me to get another video and to take a look at this. So I grabbed a screenshot just to discuss with everybody. My initial thoughts on this was that this is an image of the eclipse in progress. And you can see that this is the sun and this is the occulting object. It's being refracted in the red spectrum. There's a bit of a duplication of this image in the center of this green orb here. So there's a duplication of it in red. You can kind of see it's very, very faint if I zoom in there. Sorry for the phone ringing there in the background. So there it is again. It's kind of like purpley pink here now. So that's just this image duplicated. And because of that, you can deduce. You say, okay, well, if this image is being duplicated slightly as a doubling effect, so that's a double image, then this green image is a double image of this red image. And if I was to take that out and do some color spectrum, if I had the original image, you could probably do that. And you would say that this Ankh type shape with the polarized plasma bouncing around inside whatever that is, it's like a plasma ball, you know, the ones you put your hands on, right? Static charge, the plasma's on the inside, you touch it on the outside, and these lightning bolts, you know, dance around the glass, right? That's, to me, that's my first instinct, is that's exactly what that looks like, right? So I'm leaning towards some sort of a, outside of the dome, there's another object that the light's passing through, canceling out the sun and projecting it forward. And it looks to be spherical of some kind, or some kind of a lens. And yeah, it's like the Ankh, eh? That's the Egyptian Ankh type of shape. That just kind of blew my mind when I saw that. So I'm looking into that one with some more detail. But the main rub here is that the system and the plane that we're on in this reality, like looking at all of this evidence and the eclipses and everything else, is that the whole secret of the system is a dielectric neutral on the bottom, which goes back to that, the tree shape there, the double toroid. So we have the negative and the positive on the bottom, and the circuit, like we've gone through all those circuits of the ancient history with the cities being destroyed and the craters in the ground and all the destruction in the history and everything, is basically this. It's the earth and the oceans are a dielectric. And of course it has positive and negative, you know, iron mountains versus, you know, salt mountains and everything else. It's obviously well distributed, but it has a bias to the negative dielectric. And then the positive is on the outside in a Gaussian sphere, like under the dome. The dome would have its own charge, capacitance. Essentially, it's a giant capacitor. The dome itself is the outside boundary. And then the Earth center is a neutral. And it's just a positive and negative dielectric dance in the middle. And if you had an air gap right to the ground and the air, and then plug that into the water, you've got the circuit that Tesla had in Tesla's tower, right? It's exactly the same circuit with a coil on the top, a pipe into the ground, tapping into the water, and the ground circuit, and then an air gap in the vacuum in between, and the coil takes it off as a charge. And that's exactly what Tesla was doing, and I think that's why JP Morgan and all the rest squashed and confiscated and hid all of his work, amongst others. I mean, every time someone tries to come to the surface and bring this forward, it just gets squashed, because I think, one, you have to treat it with a lot of respect, because if you don't do it right, you could be bringing down whatever it is above our heads onto our heads if you don't control it properly. And two, it's a free energy circuit. I mean, it's an unfathomably huge, never-ending free energy source, right? It's easily tapped into. It's just three-phase power with a vacuum gap. But you'd have to regulate and treat it with respect, obviously, and you don't want any Joe Blow out there trying to tap into the sky, because it's a dangerous source. And that's the thing, that they don't want that information coming out, whoever they are, the ones, the powers that be, that want to control the energy and the oil and the power and everything else. It is really that simple. It's that simple a circuit. Just to go back to the eclipse thing, I did a little bit of an analysis here on some eclipse photos. What I did with this one is pretty much the same phase that I showed you before, where it's partial eclipse, and the object you can't see it, but the object would be in this zone here, and I'm zooming into just the edge of the object, right at the edge of wherever that arch is. And when I zoomed in on it, right, you can see that, yeah, it looks like there's craters there, right? There's some craters and some backscatter light inside the black spot, right, just at the edge. And I zoomed in on that and tried to get some images of it to see what it was. Different ideas. So that was interesting in itself. But then what I also did was I checked the other side of it, right? You have to check the other, if you're going to be looking at it, you got to check both where the image is being occulted and what's being scattered on this side. So this would be, in theory, on the other side of the sun. And you get the same images appearing in this field as you do over in this field. So it's the same thing on both sides, whether it's on the black side or the red side or the lit side. It's the same type of effect. So it's just backscatter, photon radiation that you're catching in the lens. So it doesn't indicate that there's any moon there at all, or any object, because you get the same thing either way. It doesn't matter. There's no evidence that is actually the moon. So I found it quite fascinating.
So basically, nobody saw the moon before, during, or after the eclipse.
That's correct. In my opinion, yeah.
So the conclusion would be that the moon didn't cause the eclipse. That would be the logical conclusion, right?
That's my logical conclusion. Yeah, it wasn't observed. Now, it's not to say that the moon during its phase of new moon isn't in the proximity of the sun and or behind it or somewhere else in the same field, right? And both are being occulted, right? Because we know the new moon phase is being occulted during the new moon. It just, once a month it does it. That's a natural thing. So the difference is that the moon would pass through that cancellation field, every month, but the sun only does it, 3-4 times a year, right? So the constant is that there is something that is interfering with the light of both objects, right? A new moon is essentially a solar eclipse. It happens once a month. Right. The phases of the moon is a perpetual eclipse. It just phases in and out of eclipse phase, right? It just never stops. But the sun only hits that point, 4 times a year. It's just a different path of the light. Right.
So could the sun be acting like the moon's phases, just only several times a year?
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. Yep, exactly the same thing. So whatever's causing that it's consistent with both, but it's independent, right?
Yeah, makes sense. I mean,
yeah.
With those photographs we all saw now, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And what about I was thinking about the meteor craters, which are obviously not caused by any rocks from outer space. So
Yeah.
could it have something to do with this electromagnetic force and with their lunar craters that we see?
You mean is there a tie-in between the craters on the moon and the craters on Earth? Is that what you mean?
Yes. Could they be caused like from a electromagnetic force acting under the Earth somehow?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's exactly what it is. In my opinion, it's the majority of the craters on Earth are caused by electromagnetic strikes and the cataclysmic type of arcing out. And it's quite possible that at one point in history, ancient history, the moon was actually involved in a huge electromagnetic storm, shorting out to the Earth's surface. Absolutely. That's people want to kind of look into that theory and stuff and how that actually works. I recommend the Electric Universe websites, and there's 20 years worth of research there. But the interesting part is you can't find that on Wikipedia. It's actually a banned topic on Wikipedia. So the mainstream is not allowing anyone, or they're trying to stop people from looking at the Electric Universe theory because it backs all this up 100%. And even though the Electric Universe, I think the majority of those people that are studying, because they're all PhD electric, physicists and plasma physicists, and it's really high-end stuff. But the majority of those people aren't flat earthers. But the foundational principles upon which the Electric Universe theory is built is exactly this principle, right? It's a dielectric field. We're in a dielectric circuit, and we're in a capacitance type of process between the two. There's a charge differential. As above, so below, but it's inverted, and it's just backward.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense. And also that, like, I find interesting the meteors that, the only thing we see are some lights crossing across the sky. We've never observed, there's no footage of any rock of any kind. So I think the meteors could be electromagnetic or electric phenomenons happening maybe in the dome or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the way I see that is if there was a crystal lattice type or a crystal, even if it's semi-plastic or fluid, like when we look at the Cola 8 project, which it drilled into the Earth's surface I don't have any pictures of it, but you can look it up. The Cola 8 project drilled as deep as it could go for 20 years straight. The drill ran 24/7, 365 days a year for 20 years. And it never drilled any deeper, I think, than 12 kilometers or 8 miles roughly. It couldn't get through a barrier at that level. Because when I looked at the reports, when I was in the mining industry, I used to work in it, that was my profession. When I looked into it, what that is there's a layer down there that is actually a super plastic. It's like a super fluid, but it's under such pressure that it's hydrogen and water and carbon is the main primary ingredients in it. And it's under such pressure that the hydrogen atoms and molecules actually become like a metal. It's under such pressure that the hydrogen goes from a gas state into a plasma state, more or less, and straight into a metal. But it remains plastic.
Chris, can I interrupt you for 2 seconds?
Yep.
Chris, sorry to interrupt you, mate, but I think Mark Sargent's leaving any second now, so I just think everyone would probably want to say goodbye to him.
Okay.
Oh,
What do you think, Karen?
So.
okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, is he put a message on?
I did.
Yeah, he's put it on. He's put it on at 6 minutes.
I didn't want to interrupt.
On the group chat, he just said
Chris was doing such a great job that I just thought it'd be nice to everyone could say goodbye to you. Really, sorry, Chris.
Yep, no problem. Yeah, thanks, Mark, for hanging out, and I hope.
Oh no, it's great. I'm hoping that some of that information will bleed over in tonight's show, and we'll just keep digging into this. It'll be fantastic.
What did you think of Chris's work then, Mark?
The what?
Chris's work.
I'm gonna start. I'm sorry, you cut out for a second there. Am I gonna follow it? Yeah, I haven't been following that much. I've been so busy, but I'm going to now.
Think of Chris's work.
It's good. It's excellent. Very detailed. Love it. I love all the angles, and I'm I hadn't seen the multiple crescents thing. I thought that was fascinating.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, there's only one way to do that. I mean, there's only one way to do that in reality. Right? You need more than one lens.
Yeah, that's really yeah. Every time I think I'm not going to be surprised with something, I'm wrong. So great work.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll try and catch your show there tonight too, as you go on to the next one.
You don't have to stay up for it, but it should be the rerun will be out tomorrow. But it'll be fun. I can't wait to get those two guys in the same room and talk. Plus, we're gonna probably take callers as well and let people kind of plug into it, see if there's anybody across the United States and other places that'll chime in on the whole Eclipse thing.
You take care.
I will. Thank you. Anyway, hey, what, Karen?
Thank you so much for joining, Mark. Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
My pleasure, absolutely. And
It's nice chatting, Mark.
Yeah, keep me posted on when the next one might be, and we'll do this again soon.
Yes, for sure. And a flat Earth hug for you, Mark.
Oh, thank you. Big hug. And then I
Hi,
shoot
Mark.
the laser beam.
See you soon.
Get away,
Hey, Mark.
British bastards. Blah blah blah.
Oh. Thank. Oh, he's gone now. Steve down the rabbit hole would like you to please show the trees. Please. It's gone quiet. He's obviously gone to look for it.
I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. If you could kind of elaborate a little.
The apple tree.
The photographs.
Apple tree.
I'll explain.
The apple tree. Yeah. Okay. Here. Hang on a
Pictures.
second.
Yeah, please.
All right. I shall return. Hang on. You guys carry on. I'll go look that up.
Okay, there then, Dave. It's coming. Anyway, Oliver, quickly, what was it like for you in Spain? Was everybody mad or?
Sorry, I cut out at the end. What did you say at the end?
I said, was everybody mad on the eclipse in Spain?
Yeah, I mean, it was trending topic, so I guess lots of people were onto it. I personally watched lots of flat Earth videos about it, and I found fascinating some photos. Also, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole's video about the kind of projection that got me thinking a lot. You know, that's pretty neat video, and it does make sense also. And it's interesting that all the theories and the videos about the eclipse, you know, flat Earth videos, they kind of point to some kind of dome being up there, some kind of a dome that makes a kind of barrier that projects something. And I find that very interesting.
Yeah, well, obviously Sun and Moon, Chris, are looking at this, but he's going to show you this. Watch this, Oliver.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's that's just kind of being hidden. And here's some other interesting little things that light does. This is quite profound, actually. This is a tree that just up in my backyard here, and just up behind the church, actually. This is a single apple tree growing on the lawn out there. And you can see that as the sun is setting behind it, and there's the horizon. And as the sun came through the tree, I went out and grabbed a couple photos, actually a series of them. And I was like, wow, that's really pretty. You know, it's creating like a heart type of shape in the center of that tree as the light comes through it. And then as I tried to zoom in on the tree, it's like, oh, it looks like an apple. It's starting to shape like an apple. And then I saw all these little orbs, you know, little round circles, rings of light coming through the leaves in the tree towards me. You know, they obviously weren't appearing anywhere else, but I could see them through the camera lens. This is the kind of the reverse of the same thing. So this kind of backs up what I'm saying, right? You can take a picture of it, looking through the tree, right? But these aren't being projected onto the surface of the walls of the church or the house or anywhere else. It's appearing in the tree itself, shaped like an apple, and there's the rings. And I zoomed in a little bit more, and then, you know, so you get the collimation of the light, which is what we see. You know, a laser will split and light will start to start making ring effects. That's what light does, right? Which is what some people capture on their P900s when they're looking at the planets and the stars, and they get these ring effects, and they're bouncing all around and dancing around. And you can start to see there's a vortex starting to form in that light source at the center of the tree, and it's looking right straight through the center of the heart of the trunk of the tree. You zoom in, and there's the apple. And later on in the spring, you know, as the apple tree started to flower and went into its flower, I noticed, you know, flowers started to form pretty much where these were. When I compared the picture, I'd look out the window here and like, oh, well, there's an apple kind of growing where that one was shining through the tree. And so where all these light patterns were being amplified is where the flowers seemed to form, and the apple started to grow on the tree over the course of the season. And there's the vortex down through the center of the tree trunk. Yeah. So I thought that was absolutely fascinating. Yeah, if you zoom in there, you can see that that's in the center of that.
And not just that, if that's like vortexes, I mean, I said the other day, an apple core, the core of the apple is a vortex, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So the apples grow in basically the apples and flowers like roses. I mean, you can see all kinds of different shapes in there, but the apple itself, it's amazing that the apple tree actually refracts light in the shape of an apple, right? So I mean, there's the tree of life is actually causing the life to be formed in the shape of the light that it actually travels through the tree itself. So I mean, light, life, tree, you know, ABC. Right? It's that simple.
Yeah, interesting indeed.
It's quite crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're seeing the world in a different light every single day. It changes daily at the moment.
Yeah. It's very profound, eh? I was like,
what do you think of that, Oliver?
Yeah, some kind of sacred geometry going on as well. I remember the No Forests on Flat Earth video about the hexagons forming the tree trunks and lots of other things in nature with the same shape.
I think, though, that Chris, through his work, is that a lot of them are not tree trunks. They're what happened to us when we had these electrical strikes and it hit the ground, and then out of the ground came the mountain immediately, almost in seconds.
And including these.
I haven't heard that theory.
Yeah. That would be a totally other hang, but we can do that at some other point. We can discuss that one because it's a whole different ball game. But,
yeah.
But this one, just to focus on the light and refraction and the light through the trees and the eclipse patterns and everything we're seeing, and the duplication of images and forward projection, right? So those pictures of the tree basically prove that, you know, what they're saying as far as the moon's appearing, little half crescents appearing on the ground, being projected through trees, is false. Because if that was the case, I would have seen it as the sun passed through a tree, just like that, right? So it's true that trees are connected with the light, but their theory of pinholes during eclipses is bunk. Right? What I'm thinking is really happening is, you know, the medium that the sun is in has anisotropic properties, and we're like in this top left square here. I put it in as a square just to give a field of effect, and it's anisotropic, so light can only go in certain directions on an XY axis. And we're basically in the dome at the center on the flat plane down in here with the square map underneath. And so it's the square, the circle, and the flat plane at the same time. What happens is...
I've been considering that as well. Because I've been reading the Book of Enoch a lot recently, and it's like there's a circle, but it's also squared at the same time.
Yeah.
The only thing that maybe we don't know is whether the circle is in the square or it's the square in a circle.
Yeah. And that's the scalar waves, right? We know we have different forms of scalar waves. So the scalar waves act in straight lines. So that gives us the square effect of, so light travels in a path, right? That gives us time in a linear sense. You know, even the forces of electric attraction that we feel and sense as gravity is up and down. It has direction. So you have an X, Y, Z axis. So that's your three in that aspect. So that's like a trinity. And then there's the opposite trinity, which is a waveform trinity of positive, negative, and neutral, but it's in waves. So now you have two trinities stacked onto, you know, so it just keeps going in thirds, right? And you end up with the curvature effect of the dome. So where the light is in the anisotropic field, it can appear in this medium, and you wouldn't see the shadow from the ground because it's now reflected onto the surface of the dome. So if you're in the flat plane here in the air, so these are layers of air density I put into the model, and you're looking up, where you see the sun appear to you, the ground as the observer is only at this point. That's why all cameras can focus to a certain length, and you can move it to from the, say, from Venus and remain focused on the moon, the sun. You can, you know, have the sun in focus and then jump down to a building on the ground. You don't have to change the focus on the camera.
Right.
It's because this distance is equal to the distance you're looking out on the ground. You don't have to change the focus because it's a lens, right? You're just focusing on the screen. Right? It's like focusing on the TV screen in your living room and then swinging over to the cat and the couch, and they're both in focus. Right? That's exactly what's happening. And that's because essentially it's this type of thing. Right? You have an external medium. The sun is out there and the moon is up there, and it's appearing here on the lens down in this little spot right there. Which explains why you don't see necessarily, depending on the phase of the moon, you don't see a shadow because it's actually not there. You're just looking at an image of the moon that's outside of the lens, a physical object that's being reflected and bounced down through light interaction, right? So and this is just to show you, this is a double image. So the top is the model, and you're looking from the outside in as if you were on the ground. You're standing on this mountain looking up through. And then on the bottom part of the image is what it would look like through the human eye. I've done it to the scale of a human eye at 2.7 millimeters with a 35 millimeter, you know, range, and a 2.7 millimeter optics on it to simulate the human eye, which gives us, you know, what we see, right? A bit of a curvature up and down because that's what our eyes do. And it brings this light, which is now to your focal point, right? Because it's actually not there. It's being focused to you. And you see the moon as an image. But you're only looking at this part of it, and that's what it looks like from the inside looking out. It's like you're inside of an aquarium type of idea, right? You're the fish in the aquarium, and you're looking out through the glass, and you think that's your entire reality. You don't see what's on the outside.
That actually makes lots of sense.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah. Now that might upset a few people, but to me, it makes me feel nice, safe, cozy, and warm, and well protected.
There's kind of doubt when you read Genesis, and it says the sun and the moon and the stars are in the firmament, and that in is kind of, where is it, right? Is it underneath the dome? Is it in the dome or outside?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Never said how thick it was.
Precisely, right? So if it's a firmament, that's what I'm saying. If it's a firmament, it has two sides, right? It has a lower side of the lens and an upper side of the lens. Anywhere in between here is the distance of the firmament and its effects. So if it's under pressure, then you would have triboluminescence, piezoelectricity. Lights cause, and triboluminescence is when you apply pressure to a crystal, you get a piezoelectric effect. That's what sonar is based on, radio sonar and all that stuff in radios, right? And when you apply enough pressure to a crystal, it will glow. It causes light, right? And or wave interference, if it's fluid, you have a wave coming in and a wave coming from us upwards, and a wave coming in from outside of it inwards towards us. And if they interfere with each other in a sonoluminescence, where sound waves interfere, well, we know that sound waves, when they interfere at the center in a medium, can cause light to appear. So some of them are sonoluminescence, some of them are crystalline piezoelectric effects, which create static electricity. And so the the sprites in our electromagnetic fields on the ground here in the clouds, lightning strike and the sprites go up, our aurora borealis, they're all attracted to this surface outwards, and also is being projected inwards. Right?
I found very interesting reading the Book of Enoch that it refers to lightning as being unleashed stars. So it's kind of
that would make sense. Yeah.
It's kind of saying that the stars are they're kind of the same as lightning. They're electric.
The electric source. Yeah. Electric source. Yeah. As the air within our realm moves around, right, it gathers electricity from both the ground and static. So it's a static potential differential. So you have, wherever you have a differential, it's like the circuit. That's the circuit that I was showing you, right? That's what the powers that be don't want getting out to the public, is because there's a static differential between the positive and the negative. And as the air moves around, it builds up charge and builds up charge and builds up charge. And then eventually it just goes zap, right? And when it hits the ground, it also goes up. You'll see the sprites come up the top in a red field, like a red spectrum, and the blue comes down to the ground. So that's your split in your charge, right? It's amazing.
And when we zoom into stars, we see that they're kind of electric things up there.
Yep, absolutely.
And I found it incredible that Enoch said that.
Yeah, some of them you can actually see there's a center point and there's all kinds of waves going around them. Yeah. And those ones I think would be more of the crystalline type of stars that are a physical star, and not just light in a medium. And the others, interference, for some of them are lights, but it's just waveform interference causing a light to emit. Right, but there's actually nothing there. It's just the light is being, as the whole thing moves, the light goes with that wave. Wherever it's focused, it just goes with it. So it's a bit of both, right? Some of it's gaseous. Yeah.
Makes sense also.
Yeah. Some are just glass balls, little, in like bubbles of gas caught in a fluid, right? And they're being charged, and once that happens, well, they glow. Right? So some would be inside out, some are solid, and some are all three states of matter, right? There's three of everything. Right? Three states of motion, three states of motion, three states of matter, three dimensions.
Stars will fall to Earth, right?
Yeah.
That's what it says in the Bible. Yeah, it's
occasionally some do, and I think that's we do see, like during some asteroid asteroid type storms, right? The asteroid cycles that we see, they'll skip off the dome, right? You'll never see one rise from the ground up, right? You never see an asteroid or a meteor going from the horizon going up and out of your sight. They all seem to come in as a radial effect. They come from a certain point and they're all skipping off the dome in a circular type of fashion, right? Going in all directions, but from a central point. If you look at meteor maps, the odd one that I think, if there's a solid dome there, and you have a magnet, say there's like one of these magnets here on this ring, right? And you have a solid magnet in a material within a suspension, so it's now a solid in a suspension of differential potential. Then that magnet would eventually get hot. Like if you levitate an aluminum plate in a field, it gets hot, right? Convection ovens and convection countertops, right? That's the principle. So the magnet gets hot and starts to work its way through. So then it starts to build up charge and gets warmer and warmer and warmer, and eventually one just falls out through the bottom. Right? It's like a hot rock going through a lake, or a hot rock, eventually melting a hole through a glacier. Right? It just works its way down. And as it does so, right, the field starts to build and the rock starts to turn like a corkscrew, right? And just away it goes. Right? So you get both kinds.
Have you seen these kind of metallic balls that they found all over the world?
We've been doing those as well.
Could this be related with that?
I think it's, in some cases, I think the Costa Rica spheres and stones, I think what happened in those was they're remnants of a major cataclysmic event that happened a long, long time ago, like 12,800 years ago or whatever. And during the cataclysmic storm, a plasma storm, all that material was ejected from the surface and taken up into the heavens, right? And it became distributed. Then once it got close to the dome, it started arcing out in charges, just started, an amazing lightning storm. And because it was dust, wherever those charges burst, it just brought all that material and fused it into a rock, like a perfect sphere, and then it fell back down. It just came crashing back down as a secondary event.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're everywhere, right?
I know you've not been on all our hangouts, Oliver, but the bit I was trying, whether you'd be interested in, is all these electrical arcs which cause all these mountains, which is we'll have to do another day. But Chris has done another presentation showing all about those balls, and some of them got carved into heads, and Chris has shown us how they were in paintings and.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. What's interesting, if you're looking into that in detail, Oliver, is you'll notice that some of those stones are hollow, and they still have that layered effect, like those candies, right? The candy with the gum in the middle, right? And some of them are reverse of that, where the center is solid iron and more positive types of mediums, and then it gets granite on the outside. So that tells you that there's both polarities were used in both instances. Right? So it was created in two ways. One's a negative, one's a positive. So it tells you it's electric. It's an electric event.
Yeah. Definitely interesting.
That's what Chris was finding on these arcings, is there's always a positive and there's always a negative. So it went in and went out. But you'll have to come back on a hangout and we show you, well, Chris shows you all that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So interesting what Chris has to say.
I have to run here, guys, too. So I have to run here. So
Chris, could I just ask you a quick question about waves? Do you think that the the dielectric, and you're saying about the actual, it's almost like the Earth is like a battery. Would you say that may produce movement, and that's what produces the waves? Because obviously they're officially saying it's the moon, which I don't buy.
I think the moon is involved, but it's not the cause. The waves are actually because as the electromagnetic field is reaching up towards the dome and helping to elevate it and keep it all up there, like it's actually pushing it outwards, and the moon is actually in that field, right? As it interrupts the circuit, then it kind of tracks with it and causes a little bit of an oscillation, because it's just electric oscillation. So if you pass an insulator between the field, it causes it to vibrate and oscillate. But the actual waves and the tides are being caused by that electromagnetic field, because it is a dielectric circuit, right? Because the node points where the tides come from they're all over the place, right? You get a high tide in the middle of the ocean, and a low tide right beside it that's actually below sea level. And there's a lot of undulation there. So it's not gravitational. It's 100% electric, dielectric.
Wow. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely.
Well, you've got the job.
I got the job. You're hired. Yeah, right up. Yeah, and the pay is a coffee. It's a coffee and a free.
Are you going to the conference, Chris?
I'm going to try and see if I can get over and
Chris?
maybe. Well, I'm going to try my best. I got some other things I'm trying to do too, and other places I'd like to go. Yeah.
God, that'd be awesome if you did.
Yeah,
well, right now.
I'm trying to make an arrangement. Well, I'm trying to make an arrangement where I can actually go down through New England and drop in and see a friend there, Matt Gilman. I want to go see him and his family, and then maybe stop into Nashville and meet some friends there, the musicians that are in the music industry, and maybe hang out with them at the SoCan House. There's a SoCan House. The Canadians have a representative house there in Nashville. And so I have a friend that runs that place, right? So if you're a musician, you can go down and stay with them. Do great stuff with Nashville musicians, and then work my way across and end up maybe in California, because I got some friends in California that have invited me to go hang out with them for a while. So
Chris,
maybe I'll fly from LA over to England. I don't know.
Chris, if it works out that you don't quite make the English one, then maybe if we do get this European one off the ground, that would be really fascinating, because that's hopefully, if all goes well, in September next year. And we're trying to go for something between no less than 500 and maybe 1,000 people, because my logic is that with the momentum of the North Carolina plus the one in England, plus another year and a bit's gone by, then I would like to think that 1,000 isn't a stupid figure, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I go here too, I'll definitely try to get that arranged with you, and we'll talk online or offline here in PM, and feel free to contact me or do Skype and we can have a chat.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, that'd be great.
Before I jump, though, I just wanted to say before I jump, thoughts and prayers to the people in Houston and Texas and Louisiana, and Patricia Steer. I know she's from that area, and her cats and family and everything else.
Out tonight because she was coming on the hangout, and of course she hasn't managed to get home, so we put out she made a little video for people involved, so we put that out. Chris, I'm just putting you a message in chat.
Okay, I have to go now, guys. But I'm free until Tuesday. Maybe we can do another hangout this week or the weekend or something.
We have on Thursday, we have Santos. On Friday, we're doing a hangout with Thrive and Survive. We have Pyramids.
Oh, that's a good one.
Oliver,
that's a good one.
Pyramid one, that's Sunday.
Sorry?
The Pyramid one is on Sunday.
With Mr. Thrive?
Thrive is on Friday. Chris is going to be on Friday.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to try and go through some of this too, and in even more detail with Mr. Thrive and Survive on Friday. And
do you want to come on Friday then?
Sure, because I love Mr. Thrive as well, so definitely be good.
Okay, I should put you down in the little black book. The little black book.
So thank you guys, and I'm going to run here. And
so that, Chris, it's nice
nice to talk to you, man.
Well done, Chris. Bye, Oliver. Bye, Oliver.
Bye, everyone.
Hugs for Chris. Thank you so much again, Chris, for explaining that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
Yay.
We'll talk to you after. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Chris.
Love the headphones, Gary. Those are cool. You're rocking them.
Are you jealous? You come over to England, you never know, I might present them to you.
It'd be awesome if Chris came over to the conference, the convention now. I really do. Hope that works out.
You look like Command Central getting ready for a launch. There you go. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, we'll see you later, guys.
Super clear. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, Chris. We've been going for nearly 3 hours ourselves now. Is Oliver there? Is Oliver gone? Oh, Oliver's gone. He didn't say goodbye. Gary, is there anything you want to say again? Do you want to repeat when the web page is coming out?
Oh, Joe, thank God we got rid of that riffraff. Oh my God, they had no idea, did they? Yeah. I think I've basically covered it earlier that if all goes well, it's all going to be released by the end of the week to people that are actually on the landing page, and speakers and select people are obviously going to get, like yourself and Series and a few other people are going to get the website link. So it's a day before launch, because I really want people that have been involved in one way or another or shown interest to actually get a chance, just in case, if for some reason the tickets really sell quick, which I don't know if they would or they won't, but I'd hate for people that are been involved and around not getting in quick enough if for some reason it does sell quick, because obviously we've got limited numbers. And so it's slowly coming to fruition now, which is really, thank God. It's been a bit of a saga getting to this point.
Always a bit stressful. There's a little bit of something funny going with your internet, by the way. It's sort of making funny noises, but never mind.
Yeah,
there's always got to be a bit of.
I think what it is, the jack on the socket isn't that great on my PC. I think it's that.
Stop moving, Gary.
Who says I'm moving?
You hear your hard drive or something.
No, what it is, it's the jack on the motherboard. It's just not the greatest of connections.
Like hard drive sounds.
Mm. Yeah, so you can hear it too.
A little bit, yeah. I turned you down a little bit early on.
Sorry.
Got to have some technical problem on here. Well, I hope everybody's enjoyed the hangout tonight. It was great having Mark on. It was a real shame that we didn't have Patricia, and I hope everything's okay in America. It doesn't look like it's going to be for a while, does it really? Series, do you want to say anything? Patricia, you've been really quiet tonight.
Oh, me, I'm always quiet.
No.
Go on, Series, I'll let you talk.
Did you enjoy the hangout then?
Yeah, sure. At least things are not that bad as I expected. What I heard before, but yeah, it's still. If you're in there, I really should be working.
Sorry, Series, you have to speak up a bit. I can't really hear you.
In those kinds of weather storms, I really wish you good luck. You don't know what is overcoming. And you really actually need the power of the Most High in that sense.
So, Patricia, did you enjoy the hangout then, my darling? My darling Patricia.
Oh, I thought it was rubbish, actually. No, I'm only joking. As soon as everybody else is doing that, I thought I'd do it. No, it's really interesting. I just can't wait to get my P900 so I can actually photos of stars and the moon and the sun and trees, and I just can't wait. So yeah, work. You know, it's just I can't believe that, like, what was it, say 5-6 months ago, I wasn't even looking into any of this. And it's like, I'm so hooked. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, that's good. And, well, I'm pleased about that, Patricia. What did you think of what Gary? What do you think of what Chris said? All that stuff, and the apple, like even the apples on the apple tree. Even caught that one.
I've got to be honest. I would have to say that he loses me very quickly because it's so involved. I can't even begin to profess that I can keep up really, because his knowledge and his depth of analysis and things is like goes over my head, most of it. So I find it fascinating because, you know, like some of these hangouts, there's a lot of arguments, a lot of argy-bargy, and people just literally take swipes at each other. Whereas you then come out onto this hangout and you have, you know, really, really decent quality speakers, and also the content is really good. So yeah, I think he's an amazing man. He's really easy to listen to. I think he's a bit of a superstar, really.
Yeah, Sun and Moon are lucky to have him.
No, I agree.
But we're lucky to have you as well, Gary.
I know.
We're lucky to have Series. A lot of people may not realise as well, though, that when Chris has got all his work together, that's got Series he's working as well, hasn't it, Series?
Yeah.
Although there's a model, or Chris is creating a model.
Even I have a hard time following all this stuff. He's so knowledge based there. It's the same with Sentos, for example. He knows so much about so much stuff. I try to digest it first and then think about it. You know, that takes ages to actually get through it. Practically their life, reliving their life in a sense, and a little speed of it. You know? Yeah.
It's not just me then. That's good.
No, it's not you alone.
What about you, Karen?
Well,
did you enjoy it?
I have watched, obviously, Chris do a few presentations before, but a bit like some of this he did, like, let's just say he started looking at the pictures, they started putting things together, and all this was happening online, and then he was going, right, I've realised this, and then I did this, and then I've gone and done that, and it was all just like, wow, no moon. So yeah, but again, I can't say. Let's just say if someone asked me to repeat it all, I can't do it. I don't think any of us can.
No,
That's
I
why we
agree.
record it.
Really good at how he explains it, and that she loves listening to him, but he's got such a lovely voice that she often goes to sleep listening to his voice.
Who's this?
Bad Christian.
Yeah.
Night, but she just said she starts listening, and he's got such a lovely voice that it makes you want to go to sleep.
Well, I think we should.
As you're listening to.
We should actually market. We should market him then, shouldn't we? Sell him on the internet.
What?
His voice.
Yeah, get a bit of Chris Monk.
Funny.
And what makes it really nice is that, like you say, he wants to research, and we all do this, and we're really good friends. We talk many hours a week behind the scenes on after hangouts, and he's such a nice guy to have around. But then series is lovely as well, and it's got series' work in there as well. So I just wanted to mention that there as well.
No.
But Chris has put it together with the land and the sky. I know we didn't talk about that today. We've been talking about eclipse stuff, and yeah.
I think what is good, Karen, is that the contrast between everyone. Like when you have a Leslie Dave, you have Darren Nesbitt, and obviously lots of different people like who are on tonight, and there's a good range. And like John the Morgile. So I think it's a really good show, really.
Well, we're a community, aren't we? We're supposed to be a community. Last night was ladies' night. We had Karen B, we had Bad Christian, and we had Judith, all women who've got P900s and have taken stuff of the eclipse and of the whatever. And it was just nice to have a bunch of ladies talking.
Yeah, cool.
Last night. But yeah, we're a community. We're full of different people. Like we've got Dave Marsh. It's brilliant.
Yeah, Dave's good. Yeah, he's very good. No, it's good. It's even since I joined about 6 months ago, I've actually, like Patricia said about the change and how you've become hooked and whatever, and I think it's definitely growing.
Yeah, well, series, you say it in case I make a mistake. What's the saying? We're here for the truth of the what? Go on, say it.
The truth of the why of the truth of the lie. And that's why I want to know the truth of the truth, because the truth of the lie I already know.
Do I'm actually going to get you. I'm going to get you pissed one day, and I'm going to ask you to say that again, and I'm going to ask you to say it backwards. see if you get it right.
Yeah, then I need to put it on paper. Then can I read it backwards? I need to learn to read backwards as well.
Maybe we should put that on the banner.
Yeah.
Yeah, do a meme.
Yeah, series probably has it on a meme. But just so that the
I meant
chat
for the
room...
conference, we could
Carry on.
I meant for the conference.
Oh, right.
Banner up.
Yeah, all food for thought.
Yeah, I just wanted the chat room to know that we're all really good friends. Even Gary, Patricia, the ones that come on the most, we're really good friends, and we often talk for quite a long time after the hangouts. And lately, like I say, Chris has seen something happening on the hangout, and the next day he's showing us how it works. So he's an amazing man in the fact that he can go through all this information quite quickly and then come out with all these answers. So we're very lucky that Sun and Moon has him. But the reason that he's there is that he became interested in Sirius's work. And once he'd seen Sirius's work, I don't know, that's it. He was part of the gang.
Well, I think it's a really good addition, I think.
You could actually from that moment. Well, it's still hard to get around that 4D stuff. Most people have a problem with that to grasp it.
Series, can you talk into the microphone a bit? Because you're sitting back and we can't really hear you.
Uh-oh.
That's better.
Maybe a bit louder.
Yeah, go on. What did you say?
I don't know.
Oh, series.
That's the interruption of the mind flower.
Well, I didn't hear what you said, so I had to ask you.
What was I saying?
I don't know because I couldn't hear you. Do you all guys agree? We've been going for nearly 3 hours now, and our guests have left, and it's probably time that we kind of concluded this hangout now.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to say that thank you very much to Mark Sargent and to obviously Chris. Thank you so much to Gary, to Ceres, to Patricia. We're not here tomorrow, on Thursday, and you're going to see a bit of a switch because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be at Ceres' house. I'm going to Holland on Thursday morning.
Let's hope she is right.
My group partner.
Cool.
I will meet her at the airport.
Because you better remember that I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning.
You want to sleep in series, just to get a. Actually, talking about sleeping in, Karen, you don't want to do that again, do you?
Actually, normal Thursdays.
Oh. That's because I was on a long hangout with the mall girl, wasn't it? Me and Siri stayed up till about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was my fault. I never should have gone to sleep. So I'm sorry, Cardiff.
Yeah, but you would have been knackered, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter when it's flat Earth, does it?
Well,
I just completely slept in. I'm so sorry about that, Gary. Again, apologising and apologising to Martin, Leakey, and. But
no, it's all cool. It's all good. Anyway,
you've got a mouse. You've got a mouse in that computer.
It's to do with the like I say, the jack plug. It's just not the best. So sorry.
Right, Gary, we'll let you off. Anyway, just to say thank you to everybody in the chat room. I think Globusters is still in the chat room, so that's really great. Thank you to everybody who's watching, everybody in the chat room. We're back on Thursday with Santos, and we've got Thrive and Survive on Friday. It's on Sunday. I'm not sure what we're doing after that series.
I guess your book will be filled by the time.
Yeah. So I put pyramids. I don't know what we're doing Monday evening at the moment. There's an open space there on Monday night. Thank you so much for watching. Back on Thursday, where I'll be in Holland. Thank you for watching, everybody. Oh, we're going to have a group hug. Come back, Gary. Patricia. Hug.
Yeah, I'm here.
Next time.
Can't see you. Patricia.
Can you see me now?
Give me a chance.
There's Gary. Can't see Patricia. There she is.
Love you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
From all of us, and we'll see you on Thursday.
I look right now.
No,
bye, everyone.
You don't.
Love you all. Take care.
Thank you very much, everybody. See you Thursday. Okay, bye.